Hello, everybody. Welcome to OHKO, a Pokémon VGC podcast, episode 34. I'm your host, Joe Brown, and I'm usually joined by my co-host, Sierra Dawn, but she is off in the first-person shooter world right now, covering Valorant and Rainbow Six Siege and all these other things. So she's super busy, and she said, I need help. Can you have somebody fill my slot on OHKO this week? And I said, no, I can't have one person fill the void that Sierra Dawn leaves on this podcast. I had to get two guests to come on today, and some familiar faces for any of our OHKO fans. We have Jake Muller and Justin Carris joining me on the pod today. We'll start with you, Jake. How are you feeling right now?
Sierra, you look different. No, I'm good. I'm excited to be back. I wanted to let everyone know that I was the first guest, so I am also the first repeat guest. So I'm breaking barriers every single day. It's great.
Justin is also the first repeat guest. You're tied for first.
Well, no, because I was on first, so I'm like the first, and he's the second first.
And I said hi to you first, so I guess
that's true. I joined the call first.
That is true.
So, like, are you like the twin that came out first, or you're like, I'm the older twin? I beat you by 20 seconds.
That is quite literally me. I am 5 minutes older than my twin sister, and my entire life I've grown up as the middle child in the family, right? Like, because statistically, this is how time worked out. I was the middle child born. I never did those jokes like where they always say, "Oh, I want to talk to my twin." Be like, "Oh, back when I was your age," and then said what you just did 5 minutes ago, like just as a bit, but I never did those. Anyway, let's get to Justin Carris, top 4, the Orlando Regional Championships, having a lot of success in Regulation F. So thank you for coming on the pod. How are you doing today?
Good. It seems like that's a little bit of a stretch. I had one tournament, Joe. Tournament where I did okay.
Well, wait, you have Toller with his top 8 team, so by proxy,
well, I mean, in a way, I guess. We worked on the team together. It was kind of my baby, but Toller piloted it pretty well. He kind of gave me flack after the tournament. He was like, if I used a better team, I think I could have won this whole thing. And then literally did that at the next tournament. Like, am I going to argue with him? Like, clearly I held you back with my team. And I couldn't take it to the finish line. So I tried, but it is what it is.
That's so funny. Toller did kind of prove himself right, though. But for anyone joining us here this week for OHKO, we are going to have a deep dive into the start of Regulation G and the single restricted format. That's going to be our World Championship format this summer in Honolulu. But obviously, we'll talk about that later on. And we have two experts coming on to talk about the topic. But we'll still begin with Regulation F, recapping Justin's run in Orlando, and then, of course, the Sao Paulo Regional Championships that just happened this weekend. Do want to say that as of recording, literally as we're saying, it is currently Sierra's birthday. So if she ever does decide to watch the podcast, even if she's not on it, we would like to wish Sierra a very happy birthday. Hopefully she's having a fun day. Do you guys have any messages you want to send to Sierra to see if she's actually listening?
Hi.
Well.
Happy birthday, Sierra.
That's it.
She can definitely pretend that if I say, what did Jake say to you? And she say, oh, he said hi.
I mean, we can
I told her
attempt
happy birthday
singing
earlier.
Happy birthday, but it'd be so delayed and it would be so messy.
We're not, listen, we don't all have the voices of angels like you do, Justin, okay? That's not going to go well for
Flattering.
us, Well, all right, this is how I want to start. This not Regulation G, Regulation F, not anything Pokemon related. This is a would you or a what if to Justin, all right? Because today you're joining us here as recording, a very important time in your life. And with the Philadelphia 76ers currently in the playoffs, right? In the NBA. So what would be more important to you? We get to Honolulu 2024, closing ceremony. Anna's out there on the stage, and they say, all right, thanks, it's been a great time. We'll see you next year in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Or the 76ers make it out of the second round.
Oh, man.
Not even win, just the second round.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, it has been their hurdle that they've been trying to overcome,
So, as awesome as it would be to have the World Championship so close to me, unless TPCI could assure the safety of the competitors in Philadelphia, I don't know that I would ever recommend hosting a large-scale tournament with all these people. It is it can be dangerous at times. We have some pretty bad drivers, Pennsylvania drivers to begin with. Secondarily, it is they have quite the population of people out there that are just unabashedly going to talk to you, and they're gonna yell wild things. They're not going to care about your feelings, and I just don't want to subject people to that. You have to like spend some time in Philly to be able to understand it. And it's not like we're all just pulling up to an Eagles game. Like we'd be there for like a Pokemon event. Like you have no idea what type of wild cards people would run
honestly,
into. So,
like threaten my safety all you want, but try to talk to me and you've crossed the line. It's too much.
I put it right up there.
It's not even that you want the 76ers to win, you just don't want people to get hurt, which I can respect. I think that's an honorable all right, let's do how would we flip this for you, Jake? Would it be like, would you want Worlds in Dallas next year, or like what, Texas A&M to win the national championship? I don't know what the equivalent would be for your life.
Braves fan.
Or the Braves. Okay. Yeah. Well, you just saw the Braves win the World Series.
I was gonna say that was gonna be my answer. Like we just did that like 2 years ago. I'm good. Put it in Dallas.
Right. So I had to get that "would you" out of the way, because I would love a Northeast World Championship. You know, a novel concept that we haven't really had since 2015. Even though there's a large player base in the Northeast. You know, neither here nor there. I don't bring that topic up.
Not that you're bitter.
Yeah, not that I'm bitter that we all thought Worlds was going to be in Boston this year, and nope, it's like 12 hours away. But anyway, now we can get to the important stuff, guys. We can get back to the Pokemon, and let's start with Justin's top 4 run, the Orlando Regional Championships. Don't have to spend too much time on Orlando for things that aren't Justin related, because Sierra and I covered most of the recap last weekend. So, you know, Justin, I'm just going to say it. When I'm hosting regionals, you do pretty well. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm a superstitious guy, not necessarily because I've been that way my whole life, but almost exclusively because of my experience with Pokemon. I believe in totems, wearing similar outfits, hats, like rings, earrings, like, you know, whatever you can do to align the juju for a good regional run. There's a character in Kuroko no Basket, and it's this anime about basketball. And there's a character, his name is Midorima Shintaro, and he like checks his fortune, and like he like brings around like the lucky object with him every day because he's a 3-point shooter. And like he can shoot from anywhere, and he's always taking shots that he's like, I'm only taking a shot if I know it's going in. So he does everything in his power to make those shots go in. And that's kind of like my mentality too, is like you have to do everything that you possibly can for these tournaments. So like literally whatever extra energy you get, and that's a funny story that I'll get into in a minute. Whatever extra energy you can bring to these tournaments, like if it means that you're going to hit 99% of your bleak wins, like I'll take it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And then sometimes you can miss bleak win on stream and, you know, still win the matches, as we saw Wolf in the finals do. So, Jake, you were casting the Orlando Regional Championships. You're originally from Orlando as well. Correct. So, talk to me about, you know, getting to cast in. I know your home is in Texas now, but your quote unquote home regional region. You know, everything, the pride that came along with that, and some of your favorite moments from the weekend.
It was so much fun. I got to like make a whole trip out of it. I went a day early and stayed a day late to do like theme parks and go see old places I went to when I was living there. And it was one of my favorite regional trips I've been on in the last couple of years. I've been to Orlando regionals plenty of times as a player. I think
were you a finalist there once?
I wish. What?
I thought you made it to the finals there once.
No. I'm flattered you think that is something I was capable of, but no.
I believed it.
Semis?
I made top 4 at Anaheim Open. That was my best regional. But sadly, that is not Orlando or anywhere near it.
Dang.
No, but it was really fun. I got to, you know, go back home, and I've always had a really good time at Orlando Regional, so it was really special to be able to cast that since I haven't been able to since I kind of came back to casting. So I loved it. It was really fun. Gabby is a joy to cast with, and was really excited to get to do another regional with her. And the finals match, I really like day 2 of Orlando as I think the day of casting I think I'm most proud of so far. I think I did really well that day, and it's just really fun. So loved it.
Yeah, I think honestly you did a great job. You and Gabby knocked it out of the park. Stinks that some other reasons that other things that happened that weekend might overshadow how great of a job you guys did, but that's neither here. That's neither here nor there.
My nails is what overshadowed it. Yeah.
We're not going to talk about any of that other stuff, but yes, you did do a great job. So let's dive into Justin's team, which is the Spam Iron Crown core that, Justin, we talked at the beginning of Charlotte. You're working with Toller on this team, and you worked through the entirety, all 4 months of Regulation F in the end. So do you think, one, was your time well spent over these last couple of months of VGC building this team? And do you feel as if this Orlando version of it was the peak? Or let's say if there was another month of Regulation F, you could have made it even more optimal?
No, I think in all reality, like, I got as much life out of Crown that I could. Literally back to the announcement, like, just seeing Iron Crown, I was like, oh, I'm going to use this goofy looking dude. Like, he's just a little fun guy. And I'm like, I get very attached to Pokemon based off of the way that they look, but when that sounds so horrible. Not that I judge Pokemon by the way that they look, but I like using cool looking Pokemon. The fact that it ended up being really strong as well, like, was just like a bonus. I definitely plan to experiment with both Iron Crown and Iron Boulder at the start of the format. I was like, oh, these are 2 cool Pokemon, the Gouging Fire and Raging Bolt. I thought they were like a little bit goofy looking, didn't have much interest in them. Usually I actually like legitimately will write stuff off based off of that. Like, I hate Dondozo partially just because of the way that it looks. It's just like a personal quirk. And so when Crown came out, like, I was like, really hoping for its stats. There was like rumors about it having like actually even crazier stats that it did end up with. But when we finally got them, I was like, oh, it outspeeds out Urshifu. That's pretty awesome. It has the ability to go like booster speed, booster special. Literally day 1 of the format, I was like, all right, let's start experimenting. And literally everything that Iron Crown could do, and like the way that people ran it in the beginning and the end of the format, tell you, like, I had it written down in my notes app. I was like, speed booster, Calm Mind. That was like one of the first things I thought would work. And I didn't like being limited by the speed boost not having like the 4th move where you could like throw a Terra Water or Terra Ground into Incineroar. So that was what I experimented with next. I was like, let's try out like maybe Choice Specs or Life Orb or Booster Special Attack and Terra Ground. And then Fede Campo got absolutely rolled by me on ladder and stole my idea, and then ran it at a tournament. And then I DM'd him and I was like, bro, this is my sauce, don't take it. And he's like, I'm sorry, bro, it's okay. I didn't know it was you. And it's like, it's okay, I forgive you. And he will know this because I literally was using that alt Crown Town all the way back in like 4 days into the format.
Yeah.
And literally was just coasting on that all. I used it against my students. So a lot of people knew that was me. Charlotte obviously didn't go the way that I wanted it to because it was supposed to be my title defense. I was so proud of the team when I initially came up with it. Like, there was a whole building process where we saw this idea on Reddit with Palmot that Toller had brought up. And it was like, oh, you can use like Ring Target Indeedee, and then Palmot can Revival Blessing. You can be like a little bit more laissez-faire with your Indeedee, and you don't have to fight that hard for terrain. Palmot also kind of naturally matches up well into dark types, etc. And literally like maybe 2 weeks before we dropped Palmot, I was like, everybody's going max speed Ogerpon, we can't use Palmot. And Toller fought me on it, but like literally that one small shift in the meta, I was like, no, it's just too uncomfortable using this. It doesn't feel as free and strong as it was initially. So I was like, okay, let's figure out what actually works. I suggested Ogerpon Fire. We also debated back and forth about like not using Scarf on Urshifu, and like there was a long battle between me and Toller about whether or not Scarf needed to be used. And to his merit, I think like we both agreed like having the extra protect on the team made like a lot of sense. We almost ran like a U-turn over Aqua Jet, Mystic Water, Urshifu, and that was a version that like we had laddered with in the in-game ladder. I really was like, I think that in order to face up well into Riley's team, the Choice Scarf Urshifu was really important because like just getting rid of Chi-Pao proactively was super like useful. And to cut like the tangent short, we ended up with that version with like Choice Scarf Urshifu. Toller had a fantastic run. I was more than happy to see him do well because he had like kind of just snapped like a streak of just underwhelming performances by his standards. I think he had gotten CP at pretty much every event that he went to, but he just hadn't made a day 2 in a while, and was like, I felt happy about that. I was like, okay, cool. I was at least able to give you, an idea that we can work on together again. You can pilot it comfortably enough. And then he went all the way to day 2 in our first 6-round day 2 Swiss. And I was, again, super overjoyed. He piloted it well. I had a bit of rough luck that day, I think, both in matchups, and pretty much like every game that I lost was a game 3 to either like a bleak wind miss or like a crit or a flinch or something. And I also lost day 1. I lost my round 1 to a disconnect as well, and day 2 to Jody Azzarelli, who I had dead to rights in game 3. But it was just like, it was turn 1. It was super arguable that like he could have played really well and came back. But I felt like it was such a, you have to get this turn 1 right matchup. And then when we ran it back, like again, it was like mind games. He got it right. He made use of it. I think he ended up getting top 16. So like, I'm not upset about it or anything. And no disrespect to Jody, I completely respect his decision to take the reset board state the way that he did. And he played super fire, not, mad about it at all. I just felt like it wasn't my day. It was Toller's day. And I'm glad going into Orlando that like I kind of chose to revisit it. Because I definitely felt like I committed to Crown super early. I was like such a big fan of it, and I just felt like people sucked at using it. Like everybody's going max speed, everybody's running all these different whack ideas. I'm watching stream games, and like even with good performances from like the Crown stuff, it just felt like soulless. You know what I mean? Like it was just like people good playering, not as much like believing in the Crown ideology. You know me, I'm like a very, the Church of Tusk. I gotta like, I gotta put my whole soul into it.
You dive all in, yeah.
It's like me with like in like relationships too. Like you get all of me. You know what I mean? Like you get my heart, body, my soul. I'm a lover.
Every piece of me.
People can attest to that. So the Crown ideology for me was like, it's Crown Town. I'm taking people to Crown Town. Let's go. Let's go. I'm so excited. I love this thing. And the reason I believed in it so heavily too, and man, this is going to sound so nasty, but I told you already, I'm a hater on Dondozo, right?
Yeah.
I have been equally, if not more of a hater on people that run flowchart, indie Armor Rouge, Psy Spam teams.
That's hurtful.
And not necessarily because I think it makes you lesser as a player, but in my opinion, I feel like those flowcharty, volatile teams are lazy. They don't innovate. They're just very like, I'm going to try and prey on people's matchups, etc. And again, no disrespect to people that choose to play that way. I just personally wouldn't do that. And like, I just feel like it conflicts with what my goals are as a player. So when I have the opportunity to take an idea of like Psy Spam and do it in a cool way, a non-lame way, a proactive, hyper-offensive way, and a much more flexible way, which is the most important piece of that, is I feel like I was playing Pokemon, not the flowchart game. Again, no disrespect to the people that design their teams that way. Again, like, I mean, Chef is a great example of somebody who I think does that brilliantly and like really pushes the boundaries of like what you can do with like solving matchups and like hard countering the meta with like a really good hard trick room team.
And his held items too, right?
And his held items. Yeah, we got to get into that in a second.
That was so funny.
Let's do this because Jake was all over this. You were having a field day when this whole Hatterene Clear Amulet stuff was going on social media. So take us through the whole story, Jake.
Okay, so Ben and I. Oh God, I'm totally blanking.
Brian Collins.
Yes, thank you. They wrote a report that they released this week or last week, sometime in the last few days, and they talked about their choice of Clear Amulet Hatterene, because when I first saw like the team sheet, I think I casted one of Chef's games, or I just looked at it when he was on stream at some point. I saw the Clear Amulet on Hatterene, and I was like, that's weird. Why would you not run Covert Cloak? Like, it feels like that's just better. And I was talking to Len about it backstage, and we were both just kind of like, I'm not really sure what this does over Covert Cloak. Like, maybe it's something with Parting Shot. And we were kind of right. Like, it is something with Parting Shot. Not that it actually accomplishes anything different, but the whole thing that they talked about was that they thought people would see Clear Amulet and think Parting Shot would fail. And the reason we'd want a Parting Shot of Hatterene is because if you Parting Shot something with Magic Balance, it actually uses Parting Shot itself, so it swaps out. And if that means it can't set Trick Room that turn, which is like really good if you're playing against that team.
Mm-hmm.
So they hedged their bets and they said, we think no one's going to parting shot us if we have Clear Amulet because we think they're going to assume it doesn't work. And he said it like worked perfectly. Like no one ever tried to parting shot him at all during Orlando, which is hilarious and crazy because I don't know that I could ever I don't know that I'd ever have like the gumption to actually like hedge my tournament on that, but I don't know, it worked. I think it's so funny.
Gumption is the PG way to say that. Okay.
Yes. I was thinking on the fly. Like, wait, what can I say?
That's a good word. I like
you
that.
are good at your job.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the coolest decisions ever. And that's why, like, again, I really want to give these players their flowers. I deeply respect players like Brian Collins, Brandon Davis, and especially Ben Gristmer, who I am always intrigued by, like, what they bring to the table. But, like, it was more to me the idea that, like, you know, people in these scenes, especially newer players, I feel like it was very easy to latch on to a Dundozo archetype and be like, I'm a Dundozo main, or a Psy Spam hard Trick Room team and be like, I'm a hard Trick Room player now. And like, again, it's cool to experience the game that way, but again, it keeps you from being well-rounded. And unless you are like really pushing the boundaries of what those types of teams are capable of, I just think that like in a lot of ways it can hold you back. And I just don't want people to buy into that ideology, buy into my ideology, which is way better, which is hyper offense and versatility and go do lots of damage and be crazy, but be flexible. Again, a lot of that's jokes. And before people crucify me on Twitter, again, play Pokemon however you want.
On Justin's philosophy,
Don't worry,
you can hire him for coaching.
Yeah, no, Justin, you're not tweeting right now, so you can't be misunderstood. You have
True.
Like usual, you know, this time you have the words to back up, you know, what you're saying here.
I'm saying it with my whole chest too.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Chef's team too, because I was going to ask you about that. There were like two different like expanding force using teams in top 4 that operate so very differently. And you already covered a lot of it, but how, like, I was going to ask you what you thought the main differences were between yours and Chef's teams, just because they're kind of not centered around like, well, his is pretty centered around, but I wouldn't call yours like fully centered around Iron Crown, and maybe I'm wrong there, but it feels like can very much operate without it. Whereas Chef's team, it feels like if you're not using Hatterene and Indeedee, you're probably doing something wrong.
So obviously the main thing is like there's a goal on the chef style composition. What do they call it? Paint spam. Which I think is a very good name.
Yeah.
They definitely get marks from me and the naming archetypes department. So the main thing obviously is like goal number 1 is get up Trick Room with those types of teams. You can do stuff with like Follow Me and Eruption or whatever, but like that team is not doing its job unless Trick Room is up usually. That is almost the opposite of my team. I only have Trick Room to make it harder for Trick Room players. That's it. And like once in a while I'm using it as like a torn check. But the difference is I think in like the function of our team is like my team is a crown team in disguise. And let's say this apart from the Regidrago, because the Regidrago changes the dimensions of it a lot. And that was kind of a borrowed thing or kind of like an inspiration where I had a version of this. I just didn't use it initially. At Charlotte, the thing that we discovered that I think very importantly we discovered in practice was like, okay, Crown forces them to bring things. They have to bring their dark types. They have to bring something that can Terra Dark or Terra Steel. They have to bring something that can do good solid damage into Crown. And then everything around that team was just flipping that on its head. It's like we're bringing Crown to make you play honest, but most of the team is like going to punish you for trying to counter the Crown. So for example, if you bring Incineroar, you're going to get cooked up by Urshifu with Rain Dance. Indie Urshifu is like probably one of the more popular leads on that team, because like unless you have a Rillaboom, you're leading wrong into that. Urshi Ogerpon is also very similarly like extremely punishing for a lot of stuff. I have a Torn Ogerpon mode. It's just like there's so many flexible modes with that team. It's like, and in practice with Wolf, to quote him, one of the things that like he said, he's like, dude, what do I do against this? Your team has so many threats. And that was before I added Regidrago. That was when I had Fluttermane. Pretty much all of the offense of the team is just meant to round out what the other offense can't cover. And the important discovery, sorry, I failed to mention it, was we learned that there was a very powerful element to having double follow me with so many offensive threats. It was more of a double follow me team than anything else. And when it was Flutter, that was really apparent. Because with Flutter, you could just like Terra Fairy, Gleam, 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 follow me, follow me, follow me, and then Scarf Ursh will pick off whatever. And that's kind of been like a common theme with other Ursh style teams where like you soften with Flutter and then clean up with Ursh. That's been like a long practice staple of Regulation F. And I just, again, I feel like it was just extremely flexible. I could U-turn into my crown. Like there was a lot of good switching synergy. And I also wanted to maximize what I got out of crown. Like from day one of the format, I was like, I don't need to really run any speed on this thing. I've always ran max bulk because it's actually really, really good defenses. I think it's like 90, 100, which is like phenomenal defenses, especially when you invest in them. And there's a bunch of benchmarks that you don't realize that you can hit, primarily like surviving like a Dondozo wave crash when it's +2, which not a lot of Pokemon can do.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you can do that with just investment. You don't need to Terra or anything. And like if they wave crash, they take chip, and then you Trick Room and you Expanding Force them twice, and they lose. Like that's it. So like that's my Dondozo matchup just from the bulk EVs. Similarly, you can survive like Terra Water Surging Strikes and Tailwind from like a Mystic Water Urshifu. Not with Rain Dance, not with Chien-Pao, not with Torn Chip, but like you get really close. And if you can have something to like pin the Torn slot, or you're under Trick Room or whatever, like, but you can only knock one of them out, and then you have to eat an attack from the Urshifu, etc. Like these situations give you so much value, especially when you're running an extremely offensive team. Because if you get one extra turn to do another Expanding Force, that's huge. That's a lot of teams don't have like the ability to endure that. And it was just really funny to me that like nobody really did that throughout the format because nobody was prepared for it in Orlando. There was so many people that I played where I was apologizing to them afterwards, like in like a, I'm sorry you did not bring your counters to this. And in as nice of a way as I could, I'm like, I did not have to try. It's not your fault. The team did all the work.
Yeah, that's so funny. Like in the moment, I imagine like, all right, he's being nice, being respectful. Like, oh, like, I also wish I brought my counters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but one thing I noticed with your team, you know, when you look at the 6, and obviously, you say it's more of a double follow me team than an Iron Crown or a Size Spam team, but obviously you do rely on the Psychic Terrain to make Expanding Force, you know, do more damage and a spread attack. And I think, to me, looking at it, one of the big Pokemon that can kind of counter your strategy is Rillaboom, right? Which is a very popular Pokemon, well over 30% usage in the format. We even see in Wolf in the finals, like Rillaboom was giving him a lot of trouble. He didn't have the Iron Crown in his team, but just in general, Pokemon that's able to switch terrains, like even in your top 4 matchup, being able to switch the terrain and turn Expanding Force from a double spread attack with boosted Psychic Terrain to single target, no boost instead. And then even your Shifu, who has the Choice Scarf, that doesn't care because if Grassy Terrain is up, the Grassy Glide is going to go before the Choice Scarf or Shifu can. So for any of our, you know, if you could give advice to any of our listeners that might not be as practiced of team builders as you are, and, you know, are just trying to get in, they've run into an issue where they see Pokemon that's like kind of a quote unquote hard counter to a lot of their Pokemon, if you know what I mean. Like, how do you handle those matchups where you're like, man, if they have X Pokemon, it's really tough for me to play around it?
So I would like to just put on the record really quickly that in my top 4 matchup, that wasn't really the matchup. That was the second time that we had played. And day 1, I obliterated him so badly that like I overheard him talking. He's like, I've never been beaten that badly in my life. And
nice
there are
flex.
plenty of people that can quote on that. But I also kind of revealed my hand early and taught them how to play the matchup. And now, to my credit, I thought I was beating them and knocking them to 7-2. I don't have to worry about playing them in top 8, but nobody could freaking take them out in day 2, apparently. And I got to give them credit as well. Like regardless of all of the controversy, they played phenomenally. And they really got me. Like they got me good. And I'm upset about that piece of it. But to answer your question, the Rillaboom question is, remember, first of all, unless they have high horsepower, Crown beats Rillaboom in a 1v1. So all you have to do is get it down to a 1v1. That's step 1. 2 is use their counters against them. In order for them to get their Rillaboom in safely, if you have Ogrepon on the field, they're never going to be able to switch it in safely, right? Because they're going to have to
Right.
risk probably getting
cudgel,
Ivy cudgeled. All tournament, I was throwing Ivy cudgels out into Urshifus. Even if they were Scarf, I was throwing out Ivy cudgels into POWs, into opposing Ogrepons because of the Rillaboom threat. And that's the main thing. You just have to play very proactively with the threat of like they want to bring Rillaboom in. And then you also have to keep in mind they only get to do it once. There's only like 2 layers to this. The first layer is, are they going to do it? If they do it, then can you cover that? The second layer is, are they going to call your bluff that you're going to try and maintain the tempo advantage against it? And that's why I feel like this team suited me really well, is like I know the ins and outs of the tempo way better than anybody else on this team. And the only way that I really experienced any trouble with it was if I showed somebody those, like literally walked them through the tempo of it by maybe if I'd beaten them a little bit less hard, they wouldn't have had as little trouble as they did beating me in final in top 4. Also, they crit me, but besides the point.
Who's counting? You know. My last question. I don't know if Jake has any other Orlando questions related to Justin's team, but you talked about how you actually dropped Fluttermane for Regidrago in that last slot, and that seems kind of crazy since Fluttermane's always at like 45+% usage. So how did we get to the evolution of this team that resulted in Regidrago over Fluttermane in the 6th slot?
Okay, so I have to look up their name because there's like, I know it's Joseph. I'm sorry, I don't know your last name. I didn't memorize it before this.
I'm guessing
Joseph Russell. That's probably why I didn't remember.
Not me. Can confirm. Not me.
Okay, they got 2 first names. So Joseph Russell, whose tag for the record is just Joe. Like,
okay.
Anyway, I didn't have any like precursor knowledge on like them. I literally just saw that they like tried this version, and kind of with time restrictions, I was like, okay, how do I take this team that I already have built in the game, and then what's the least amount of effort I can put into labbing out like a better meta spread, matchup spread, as well as also making it easy for me to get the team in game. Like Toller was like, I have a Regidrago, you can try. I was like, okay, I'll test it on ladder. Got the second on ladder, and I was like, oh, maybe this is actually pretty good. It covers all of the stuff that you don't really want to face with Crown, specifically like Fire, Water, Grass cores. And also it's just like, it was initially, okay, a very interesting thing is Gallade versions of Psy Spam were annoying because they have wide guard. And there's like just no guaranteed route through their flowchart. Like they can mix you up with like going offensive first. There was no way for me to break through a Gallade and an Ndidi guaranteed that I could think of. There's also always like the threat of them hard swapping and getting up a Trick Room. So Regidrago, however, unless they have Terra Fairy and even if they had Terra Fairy and Ndidi, what I could always do into Gallade and Ndidi was Terra Fire Ogrepon, one shot the Ndidi, and then just Dragon Energy. They would have to click wide guard. That's a turn that they don't get Trick Room up. So it was like a guaranteed win. And to my credit, like, man, I always lab my Dondozo and my Psy Spam matchup first, partially because I talk so much smack about the players that use those teams, and I never want to lose to them. Secondarily, because I just like know, like, the worst feeling is like, wow, I have a really good meta call, I'm doing fantastic, and then you just forget to prep like a couple Dozo variations, and you just don't have enough damage to break through a Dozo, or you didn't think about the flow charts, and you get flow charted, and you're not really playing Pokemon, you're just losing to a bad matchup. So I always do those, like, I get them out of the way first. My team has to beat those things because I don't want to get diffed by the matchup. And because Drago could do that, I was like, okay, this is just like a really comfortable way through Psy Spam. On top of my already good matchup into Psy Spam, as long as they didn't have Gallade. Now I had a solution for the Glade mode. They have to go Indie Hatterene. I played Chef in this matchup in my last round of Swiss. And it's funny that, like, we talked about all this clear amulet stuff. I recommend that every player in their career get a Toller web to latch onto, because Toller is the person I go to when I have to ask a good Pokemon player about something that I don't know about. And I was like, Toller, why is it clear amulet? And without any hesitation, he's like, Parting Shot. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I don't have Parting Shot on my team.
Well, did he know about them bluffing, or did he actually think it blocked Parting Shot?
And maybe he knew, and like he just talked about that and didn't explain all of the in-depth like
Yeah.
poker style bluff that it was. I know Mike McKellar Best was like apparently quoted on stream being like, it doesn't even work on Clear Amulet. Like he knew, Mr. Random
Yeah.
Battles God knew. And I was getting into an argument with him. I was like, it is more of a problem that you know that than me not knowing that. Okay, touch some grass. And we had a good riff about that. It was very fun. And then he was like, I can't wait to beat you at NAIC. And I was like, okay, let me see them hands, bro. So anyway, yeah, I asked Toller about this question. I was like, why is this on this team? I played Chef, and while Wolf was still finishing the Wolf was right next to me. We were super hyped. It's our last round. We're like, all right, let's go make this top 8 together, brother. While he was still loading up his first game, I was done with my set in 2 turns.
Oh, wow.
Yes. The fastest set of Pokemon I've ever played in my life.
Jesus.
Shout out to Chef for saving us the time and the mental bandwidth. I got the turn right, turn 1. It wasn't really a guess because I have a flowchart for it. And then turn 2, game 2, I just made a hard read, got like a very good call on exactly what I thought they were going to do. Got it, and both games I just forfeited after turn 1. So shout out to Ben for that.
God.
I had a tweet I had a message in a Discord chat that I was like, I really wanted to win this tournament just so I could post it. This is the only Easter egg. This is the Patreon content that people are going to get here through Joe Brown. I had like a thing where I said, I was like, I want to prove to Spam players that I am closer to LeBron than they are to me.
Wow. Tweet that. You almost got the tweet.
That is my biggest disappointment this weekend is I could not tweet that out. But
that's funny.
Yeah, we'll do that on the pod. I'll give a little inside look.
You heard it first here on OHKO.
I will say Jake is literally my Toller. Like literally earlier today, I was asking.
Isn't it so convenient?
Questions.
Like, hey, does Faint break Ghost type protects? It's like, no, Joe.
Well, why not? Because listen. I'm gonna go to because if you think about it, Protect is in front of the Pokemon.
Right.
So if you hit into a Protect, you are not touching the typing of the Pokemon. You're hitting the shield, the barrier that's in front of it.
You're so valid.
Should break Protect on a Ghost
I agree.
type. It's not fair.
I was theorizing about Faint stuff too, and I was like, does Faint break Wide Guard and Protect on Covert Cloakmons? Because it's like a secondary effect, right? And I thought about it, I was like, oh my god, I broke the meta. I figured it out. This is going to be so cool. And then I checked, and Leonard, of course, knew that it didn't work. Yeah. I was like, come on, man. I can't have one cool thing that I discover.
I really did think I broke the meta, but no, Jake had to break my heart.
I knew because in 2014, I remember, I don't know why this stuck with me so hard, but Mega Pinsir was the only thing that could feint a Mage's Slash. That's the one thing I remember about that format.
Breaker.
Very, very pivotal matchup knowledge.
Air Relay.
Yeah.
It doesn't get Mold Breaker.
Very common
normal Pinsir as Mold Breaker
that we saw in 2014 was Mega Pinsir fainting the H-Slash.
I played it a couple times at PCs or round 2 of a regional. I had to know that. It was terrifying.
Very convenient.
The first team I ever played at a Brooklyn PC. I had Mega Pinsir and Mega Metacham on the team. The first Brooklyn PC I played in. So I'm a big Pinsir guy. I thought it had some work. You get that first KO with Quick Attack or something. Get the Moxie going, and then you Mega Evolve. You're like, oh, it's so good.
Pinsir would go so hard in this format. Mega Pinsir.
Honestly, yeah.
Flying type coverage is very good. Yeah. Also, Bug to for Lando. Imagine.
Terra Normal, Choice Band, Quick Attack, Pinsir. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge one day. We'll get there. But let's move on to our Sao Paulo Regional Championship, another Regulation F tournament held down in Brazil this past weekend. We had some North American friends that went back to Sao Paulo the second time this season with Riley Vector. Oh my God. Anyway,
cut the cameras.
Wait, do we have to cut that?
No, we don't have to cut that. That was funny.
Think about it. That's life-changing money for a Brazilian.
From other people or whatever, Let's stop this before we go crazy. But Brady and Riley did go down to Sao Paulo. Unfortunately, they did not win. Riley got second. But I feel like Riley's become really good at getting second? Because isn't that like his fourth second place finish of the season or something on top of his regional win? I feel like,
Is it
right?
I don't know.
Sacramento? No, he won. Then he got second at
Pittsburgh.
Sacramento, and then he got top 8,
know-
I think, somewhere else, and then he got top 4
I thought he got a
at
second somewhere
LAIC.
else.
Close.
I'm not
think-
sure.
I can't
think it's
think
only
of
his
another finalist, but I
second.
think that's his
Okay.
second one.
I don't know.
yeah.
He's got a lot of top cuts to his
Right.
name this season. But Riley was not the star of the day. That would be Christian Andrade's winning the regional. And the Okidogi at the last second of Regulation F, the one of the loyal 3 actually pulls off a victory here. I think that is kind of unbelievable to think that Okidogi actually won a regional. What do you guys think?
For a second, I thought maybe Monkey Dory was going to do it first, especially after the performance at the UIC from Pato. I was like, yo, it's Monkey. What was it? Pheasantipity?
Pheasantipity. Yeah.
All right, Pheasantipity.
Yeah.
All right, I thought Pheasantipity might do it first.
That
And
would've
also,
been
we'd
nice,
seen like Fake Out Monkey Dory as well. I believe that also made
One
day
made
2
day
at
2 in
UIC.
Orlando. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Really?
please.
Okay.
The day 2 teams at Orlando. This is one of my favorite activities. Is going through a really big regionals day 2 and being like, what
Mhm.
gold can we find in this? Because I'm telling you, these people are geniuses. They come up with the coolest stuff.
There were some pretty good ones at Orlando for sure.
So this Okidogi on Christian's team was a salt
Yeah.
vest, which we usually see, and I think the big if Justin's been like the Church of Tusk and Crown Town like believer, I think Scott Glaza has been the big Okidogi fan throughout the last couple of regulations since the DLC came out. So it's nice to see Scott getting a little bit of vindication because he said like it is a viable Pokemon. It's an assault vest with Terra Grass, Poison Jab, Upper Hand, Knockoff, and Drain Punch. And I feel like, Jake, the difference with Okidogi, a lot of times you want to run Assault Vests to help out that special defense, right? Obviously, Flutter Mane, the Raging Bull, and all these special attackers out there, Landers, whatever. But also, it's a Pokemon that really it looks like it's designed to bulk up Drain Punch, and you're not able to do that if you're running an Assault Vest, right?
Yeah.
So has Christian kind of determined that Assault Vest, like with this victory, is definitively the best way to run Okidogi?
The one I've seen running around lately has been that Assault Vest set with Upper Hand. I think Upper Hand in general is, even if you like never actually use it on the day, it makes people think twice about like Tailwinding or like Grassy Gliding or something like that. And so it's at least some kind of mind game you can throw at them, whether or not it actually gets any use. But I think its typing is like kind of sneaky good. Obviously, Poison makes you really bad into Landorus, but there's a lot of things that Poison fighting threatens uniquely that like a different fighting type or different poison type couldn't really do. So I kind of see it. It's got good bulk. Guard Dog is like kind of also like a sneaky good ability in an Incineroar meta, and so I don't know. I'm not super surprised. Honestly, I'm more surprised Cresselia won a regional than Okidogi. That was my first thought. Cress has been nowhere.
Heard my girl Cress right there.
Look, I love Cresselia. She's fantastic. She's just not that great right now. And so I see Okidogi doing well. I didn't see Cresselia doing well, but
yeah, Cresselia's in her Jenny Craig arc, so my girl is not as thick as she used to
10
be.
defense and 10 special defense,
It's heartbreaking.
The dress doesn't fill out the same way as it used to,
She wanted to change. She wanted to change her look. I get it.
Anyway,
I would have been back behind her, but like, girl, you don't have to lose these.
Oh my god, dude. Oh,
I liked her better before, honestly.
oh my god,
the rails are down.
we're so done.
Are we gonna make it to the end of this podcast?
Oh my god. Apologize for coughing and laughing so my head is spinning. It's so funny. Let's get back to the Pokemon boys. All right. Let's talk about Christian's team, which is the one thing I want to ask Justin. You look at this entire team, there is one Protect. Cresselia does not have Protect. Rillaboom does not have Protect. Raging Bolt has Calm Mind and Protect. Incineroar does not have Protect. Urshifu is Choice Scarfed. And Okidogi is Assault Vested. Could you ever conceivably see yourself attending a tournament with one Pokemon having Protect on the team. Because Nikhil won Utrecht on the Articuno team with 2 Protects and a bunch of choice Pokemon. Could you ever run one Protect on a team?
My team only had 3, and I actually only had 2. I had like 2.5 at Charlotte because my Flutter Mane was Specs, but it had Protect, and that was kind of like a joke as the last second. Like you never click the 4th move on Flutter Mane. So like I was like, well, there's a board state where I can see protecting might actually matter more than anything else I'm gonna run in this slot. So, never clicked it. But anyway, the choices on this team that stand out to me the most, it's not necessarily the Protect thing. I know that this would probably give like Wolf whiplash looking and being like, oh, you need Protect on more of these Pokemon. And he is a player that probably really values Protect, but me, not so much, man. I mean, Alex Ogloza won without Protect, right? In 2014. Now,
yes,
Aegislash, I guess, counts as whatever. But yeah, one Protect on that team, I guess. And then I just think too, like if you're in an Urshifu meta is one thing, like you're going to be in positions very often where like you're not going to get any value out of Protect. And also like if you can just out damage them, like if you're taking everything out, you're not going to need to Protect, right? If you can KO them before they can KO you, in the wise words of Colin Hire.
Yes. That the old TikTok edit. It doesn't matter how much damage they can do if they can't do any damage or whatever he said in Oceania.
It's surprising. I will say it's surprising to see it on this team because like this team has a lot more defensive backbone than you would expect for a team to have so few Protects on. But at the same time, like it's pretty offensive. Like you have Miracle Seed Rillaboom, you have Choice Scarf, Terra Water, Urshifu, and you also have like Cresselia to kind of mitigate the. You can keep your sustain through like Lunar Blessing and with Grassy Surge. So yeah, it's not the weirdest thing. I would say that the Protect B on the Raging Bolt is probably the right call, like especially since it's like a Calm Mind sweeper. Yeah, again, I think it's a cool team. The main thing I wanted to point out before even talking about the Protects, however, is one thing that I would love for people to pay attention to is if you look at Okidogi throughout a lot of the format, a lot of people are running Gunk Shot, which many players will lobby for like the immediate power that you get out of like a one-hit KO move like Gunk Shot, but the consistency that you get from Poison Jab, kind of like a Gavin versus Riley dichotomy, it's important. Like in order to go to these tournaments, there's a lot of rounds. You're playing against extremely consistent players. You don't want to miss a crucial Gunk Shot, and especially when it's like you can't pick where you're going to miss. Maybe you could hit all your Gunk Shots, but like every time you go for it, it's like racking up, like the odds, fall more and more out of your favor that you're going to continue to connect. And you don't want that final Gunk Shot to miss in like the final against like a player of Riley's caliber. Can you imagine like being in Brazil, like you're about to win your first like home regional, and you have to play against this American coming to steal all of your freaking CP and completely turn your economy on its balance of Pokemon players? Do you have any idea what you could do in Brazil with $4,000?
That's pretty good. You get a lot. We could have. We did have a very expensive. We went to like a Rodizio's Steakhouse or whatever in Brazil. That was very expensive. You could go a lot of times with $4,000.
Yes, I mean, dude, we were out dancing and stuff. Beers were like $1. Like our meals were really cheap. The Ubers are very cheap. Like I don't know. It's just, again, I think it's very significant money. And a guy like me, I wouldn't go and take any money from Brazilians. An international's a little bit different, but.
Anyway, I was going to bring up Riley, not because he's taking CP from Latin American players, but because his Raging Bolt set is different than Christian's. And I think we've had this a lot of events now where like Raging Bolts just facing off against each other in the finals. I know James and Brady in Vancouver as well, but Christian's has the booster energy, Calm Mind, protect Dragon Ball's Thunderclap. And then Riley, the consistency, the no missing, the more consistent options he always mentioned. He's one of the few trainers that actually has Thunderbolt. Where I see a lot of times the set is Calm Mind, Thunderclap, Dragon Pulse, Protect, and you're kind of just screwed if you want to click an electric attack that's not a priority. But Riley actually chooses to keep Thunderbolt in that slot instead of Calm Mind for that consistent, damage output.
I mean, like, not being entirely worthless in front of like Clefairy or like Terrafairy Mungus is really high value, I think, for Raging Bolt. It's like such a powerhouse on so many teams, and oftentimes it is kind of like your win condition that as soon as like Terrafairy Mungus has been pretty popular. As soon as that comes out, if you're like Calm Mind, Thunderclap, Dragon Pulse without safety goggles, you literally cannot do damage. Like your game is over. Same with like Terrafairy Frigoraph. Like you're so limited on what you can do in that situation that I think having Thunderbolt is really nice in some situations, and I'm kind of surprised it took this long to see it. I saw even against like Terra Water Amoonguss. That's the other kind of Amoonguss set, and it's. I was watching a stream of a Premier Challenge this past weekend because one of my friends was playing, and he had shit. I forget what his opponent had. Terra Water Amoonguss, and they had Thunderclap on Raging Bolt. Or no, sorry, they had Thunderbolt on Raging Bolt, and they were just like, "Oh, I can just delete this now instead of having to dance around it." So I get it.
There's a few things. First, I think this is like kind of almost a direct response to like Wolf's team doing well is number one, because a lot of the ways that he played that team was very like, I'm going to protect some of my pieces from Bolt with Amoonguss. So like safety goggles, tossing that on there, that's one, because I know that for a large piece of the season he was actually booster energy, which also was kind of a direct response to like Scarf Urshifu getting a little bit bulkier. I even made that decision myself, where like I ran a little bit of extra bulk in my Urshifu, not necessarily to make it so I was guaranteed to live, but just so I could be more confident in making certain plays where it's like, okay, you have to get the clap right, and even if you get it right, like I'm most likely going to survive it anyway. So I think it was kind of almost a direct response to Wolf's team succeeding pretty well. Anytime Amoonguss like out of nowhere just shows up and does better than people expected to, if your team did not respect the mushroom, you got to throw a little bit of extra mushroom respect onto your team. And then I would say a second thing too is the Thunderbolt element. I'm pretty sure he almost always had Thunderbolt. I don't remember him going to a tournament without it, but Thunderbolts into like a Calm Mind Bolt meta is pretty strong, because like if you have Thunderbolts and you're Terrafairy, you can just, I don't know if you said this, Jake, I might have tuned this out a little bit, I'm sorry, but you can just like outright 1v1 it, right? Because you can just
I didn't
Thunderbolt
even think about that. Yeah.
Especially if they don't have leftovers, or if you knock the leftovers off, or you just like do burn enough off the clock and get it right down to range. It's like, okay, Thunderbolt or Terrafairy Thunderbolt, I'm going to win. Especially with redirection and stuff like that, like you can always just pretty much just win those scenarios.
Okay, so do we have any other discussion points from the Sao Paulo Regional? Maybe some other teams. I see the cool is called Corviknight, Ting Lu, Dozo team, but don't mention Dozo in front of Justin. Any other thoughts? Are we ready to move on to our main topic of discussion for the show?
I'm surprised you haven't brought up the Armor Rouge that got top 16, Joe.
I didn't know it existed. Wait, hold on. Where is it? 13th. Hold on. Well, shout outs to Alan Gabriel using Frigoraph and DD, Armor Rouge, Torkoal, Rory Moonstorm. This is right up my alley. Oh my gosh. Weakness policy, weak armor, psychic, expanding force, heat wave, stored power in there. I've never been that cracked of an Armor Rouge player. I've been the more traditional, Trick Room, Wide Guard, expanding force, and heat wave or whatever kind of player, but I'm Justin's so disappointed in me right now. Our audio listeners can't see the disappointment in his face.
Bro, you're from my region, man. Like, come on. New York, New Jersey. Bro. Come on, man.
I'm sorry. You're gonna have to face Side Spam at round 2 in Brooklyn.
I have like a 99.9% win rate against Side Spam over all of Scarlet and Violet. Wow. The only Side Spam player to ever beat me was in Orlando, and it was like round 3, and it was because they got 2 max loaded dice rolls and a max sleep on me, and that's it. Game 3, and I still cut that event, and they didn't.
so who's laughing now? All right. So yeah, besides that, Armor Rouge was a pretty cool team. Congratulations to all the players in Sao Paulo. We also do want to give our best wishes to Paul Ruiz, as he made a statement, had a bit of a difficult time in his run, and we hope he's feeling well, hopefully recovering and everything like that. So just want to get send so love to our former world champion Paul Ruiz, who also almost made top 8 in Orlando. So back-to-back really good weekends for Paul. I think it's top 8 and a top 16 if I'm not
We love Paul.
Wrong
Again,
there.
yeah, our hearts go out to you, man. Like, again, it's tough to endure an experience like that, and proud of you for, making it through. And again, like, I love that Paul comes to the American regionals, and like,
Yeah.
I don't actually know like the reason for it. I don't want to make any assumptions, whether it's to play against like, strong players, just get that experience and like constantly be in the thick of things just for the love of the game. But I appreciate it. I always love seeing Paul do well, and I'm always got that like little voice in me cheering for him as well, unless you're playing me. But I'm always ready for Paul. Cool teams, obviously, great player, just somebody that does it for, pure sport of it. Also a fantastic coach. Tons of great reviews from plenty of the students. So,
all right, so let's move on to the main topic of discussion here on this episode of OHKO, and that is Regulation G. This is our deep dive as we get ready, because next week will be our Indianapolis Regionals preview episode. So it's about time. Sierra's going to miss out on this conversation, but I'll be able to catch her up on any of the topics we talk about here. So we're not going to go Pokemon for Pokemon. Like, we don't really have to spend what's Eviolite Cosmo's viability or whatever. Like, we don't have to worry about that. We'll talk about the really strong, heavy hitter, restricted Pokemon that we think are going to actually make an impact on the metagame. And so, I'll open up the floor to both of you gentlemen here. As you're the two experts. You've been playing on Showdown. You've been preparing for Regulation G coming up it starts in Indy. Regulation G, does it stand for good? Is it a good format, or is the world's format kind of in trouble?
God help us is what it stands for, please. That's because oh no. I'm still, we were on the stream and you asked me about it, and I was like, dude, I am worried. Okay. And that feeling has not gone away. Okay. I feel like I am like pre-time skip One Piece. I'm like so scared about where all of my straw hats are. What's going to happen? My boy Kyogre doesn't even feel like good.
What do you think, Jake?
I like it.
Wow.
Okay, when we first heard about it, I was also very worried. I tend to not enjoy metas with the restricted Pokemon, just kind of as a rule. Not because I am morally opposed to them, just because I don't think they've ever been good. Like 2016, wasn't a fan. 2019 wasn't really a big
format. Fan. Even worse format.
Yeah, and so I've heard that, and I was like, okay.
2022 was kind of solid.
Whatever.
I'll give 22 credit.
There was terrible format.
Zacian was a jerk, but like...
Well, and specifically in 2022 or 21 or whenever it was, the one series that had the one restricted legal.
Yes.
That one I feel like is like the worst restricted we've ever had.
That might be the worst format of all time.
And so that specifically made me worried because, okay, we're going straight to a one restricted legal thing in Scarlet and Violet. Obviously, Zacian got like hella nerfed, so like that won't be an issue anymore, but just the principle of it, like everyone hated that meta. No one liked it. And so I was like, oh, well, no one's gonna like this one again, whatever. And then I started playing it. It's like, wait, this kind of isn't that bad.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say it's like the best one of the year or it's like really good or whatever. I've just been enjoying it so far. And well, I guess we'll get into it later, but I'm very much a Terapagos one trick. That's been my choice so far, and I love it.
I genuinely think that like this format, it's gonna be fun to watch, and it's gonna be fun for people to get really creative in. I think there is a lot of room for creativity and really fun concepts. Like pretty much like 90% of the restricteds have some type of viability. Maybe not like at like a Worlds or like an international level, but maybe somebody will do something cool at a regional, get like a top 16, top 8. And the same token though, I feel like we're just under that threshold where Calyrex is like so broken, it's like centralizing everything. Or at least we haven't hit that singularity yet, where I just feel like it's so wide and you have like so many matchup problems. It's like very roulette-y. And I will say that even though all of the restricteds feel viable, it does feel like there is like an S tier and then everything else. And then there's bad, but like everything else, like it's sad to me that like Kyogre might be in the everything else tier. But Terapagos is like a very cool designed Pokemon. I actually think that it's a really healthy way of making a very strong Pokemon. Like there's tons of limitations on it. It doesn't have the flexibility of Terra if you want to use it the right way. I'm not actually sure if you can use anything other than Stellar Terra, but I just wanted to cover my bases if you could. I like that, like, it kind of matches up really well into Calyrex, even though it's a normal type. You can hit it even with like your Starstorm. And I think that the new additions of like Koraidon is a really cool Pokemon. And I think it's really well designed and it's fun to use and balances things out a lot, kind of fills the void that Groudon might be leaving. I know people are going to cling to Groudon like it's the only thing that they know in life, but I'm telling you guys, like, save yourself some time, save yourself some heartache, and just use the other restricteds. Like, don't gamble.
Yeah, why use Groudon when Koraidon is 45 points faster in speed? And
well, that's like
like,
that's my main issue with Groudon is its speed really sucks right now. It's like too slow for Tailwind or Icy Wind or whatever, and it's too fast for Trick Room. Yeah. And there's like so many things, like Rillaboom exists.
It's so dependent on Terra is a big thing.
Yeah,
I think like because like Ice Rider exists is a big thing. It's like, okay, you have to deal with like the fast end of like being 2-shot by Calyrex on the the Ghost one, and then under Trick Room it's like you can just Helping Hand 1-shot by Glacial Lance. It just feels like everything you're trying to implement with Groudon you can do probably just as well with Koraidon. There may be a really clever way to use Groudon that I haven't seen. I would maybe like the special side. There's some stuff that you can do. But keep in mind, like, it's not Primal Groudon. It doesn't have like that extra special attack. It's not that crazy on the special attack side. I just feel like Kyogre, Koraidon, like it just matches up poorly into pretty much every restricted, and you're never gonna break them before they break you. And I think that that's super important, especially when your strongest attack is only 85% accurate.
Yeah, that was the big thing for me. Not Rillaboom, not or Glacier or Calyrex Ice. I know he's Glacier by himself, but when they're combined, like the thing for me, Groudon is like you're gonna miss your move 15% of the time, and yet that's your one restricted that you're choosing, right? Like, so you're consciously choosing your one kind of team captain, pseudo captain, to miss his move all the time. But let's start with the two new leaders of the generation, right? The poster children of Scarlet and Violet, and that being Miraidon and Koraidon. And yes, if Daz is listening, because Daz loves the Miraidon these nuts, Koraidon these nuts joke. Get it out of the way. We're not going to say it for the rest of the podcast. It's out of our systems. No one's going to giggle anymore. Now we're talking about Miraidon and Koraidon.
No one giggled originally.
You got me once, okay? I love a good these nuts joke. I can't help it.
All right. So anyway, Miraidon, Koraidon, both 135 speed. So that, and they're both dragon types. So it's giving problematic because they're also Flutter Mane speed and Qianfao speed, and they can kind of all hit each other super effectively. So I'm concerned there, boys. Let's begin there.
That was so Gen Z of you, Joe.
Thank you.
I'll start with Miraidon. It was like one of the things that people immediately latched on to, like, oh my god, Electro Drift does so much damage. Oh my god, my Iron Hands has an ability now. That's cool. And I think it's kind of cool, but I think it's also like one of the most easily shut down Pokemon in this format. Like, if you have a Rillaboom, you're going to have the upper hand against it most of the time. If you have an Indeedee, same thing goes. If you have a ground type, like, there's so many things you can do against Miraidon to make sure it's not hitting for its like max damage that it feels almost more like an ability bot for the Quark Drive Pokemon, which for a restricted Pokemon, I feel like you're missing out on a lot of potential if you're running Miraidon like that. And so I don't really know if it's going to be as popular as we thought, like right off the bat.
Yeah, I pretty much spot on there. I don't even, for once, I just completely 100% agree with you, Jake.
Wow.
Justin, speechless.
Spot on.
All right, so let's talk about the other one. In Koraidon, it's a dragon fighting type, same speed. Also is able to set up for the way Miraidon helps the future Pokemon. Koraidon helps the past Paradox Pokemon, right? And I think that's like, I was going into this format thinking that Koraidon would be the ability bot to help Flutter Mane and Roaring Moon and some of the other photosynthesis bonds. But like, am I wrong to say that it's kind of just walled by Terra Fairy as a dragon fighting type?
Well, so here's the thing. Koraidon is kind of cool. It has like 3 stabs, right? It's got dragon fighting and fire if you use the sun effectively. It naturally gives, like, you can pretty much bring 3 really solid Pokemon that all benefit from the photosynthesis, Raging Bolt, Flutter Mane. Technically, you can even get Chi-Yu kind of in a way to like benefit from it. So I think Koraidon is like the effective value that you get out of sun with the current things that are available in the metagame, and creativity again, because like there's a lot of underexplored stuff with that as well. Like McKelder Best just used Walking Wake to some pretty good success in that Win a Trip tournament. And again, Raging Bolt is just like probably the best thing that we've gotten since Fluttermane. And like just giving it an assault vest and a proto special attack boost, like a life orb at the same time for no cost whatsoever, is awesome. What's interesting about Koraidon though is I do feel like it is extremely dependent on Terra. Yes, it sets Sun, but it's fast, so it's going to be the faster setter, and anything slower weather is going to turn its Sun off. And a lot of the manual Pokemon that set like Rain Dance or Snowscape, sometimes people even run Snowscape on Tornadus, you can get counter weathered, I think, pretty easily. And I think that's the problem that they want to solve right now, is like, how do I win my weather war with this Pokemon, or how do I get the pieces around me to really punish the Pokemon that are fighting the weather war, like Kyogre and Tornadus, etc. I think Raging Bolt does an effective job of that. That's why I think like Koraidon it's like in that S tier. It feels so strong. It's naturally really fast. You can go bulkier for that. Also, people have been running Flame Charge for the first time in like all of competitive Pokemon, outside of maybe like a random John Who idea. So, and I think that's really cool. Like Flame Charge getting used, you always love seeing like something that people never really used competitively finally like pop into the limelight, and it actually has like a really good application, because like if they don't have Calyrex on the board and you get a Flame Charge off, now you're fast in the Calyrex and you can Terrafire and maybe Flare Blitz it, knock it out. People are experimenting right now, I think, with tons of different ways to run Koraidon, and that's kind of like a power struggle right now. Calyrex is kind of easy. We know what to do with Calyrex right away. If you just want to play to win and build balance, whatever, and just learn all your matchups, go ahead, build the boring Calyrex team. And if you want to like really unlock the potential in this metagame, I think that the next steps after that Calyrex choice, Calyrex Ice, for example, is pretty cool, especially with access to Terra. It has a lot of potential. Terapagos, I think, is really awesome and has like a bunch of potential, especially with how well it matches up into Calyrex. There's no dark type restricted in this format, so like Terapagos like neatly fits
Beltal's not in the game
into that niche where like it's the one restricted that can like just sit there in front of Calyrex and like loser. So I think that's cool. Koraidon again doesn't exactly match up like that into everything like the restricteds, but I would say Koraidon matches up really well into everything else in the format, like Rillaboom and Urshifu and Incineroar. Can tank all those hits from Fire, Water, Grass Pokemon. It's something that can switch into like a Kyogre if people end up, choosing to do that. I just feel like it really neatly works well into a lot of the Pokemon that technically you're going to see more of, right? Because like Incineroar is 60% usage or better, and Urshifu, Rillaboom, they're all like 30, 40, Raging Bolt, Flutter. Like you want to have a Pokemon that does well into all of that stuff, and then design your strategies to like match up into restricteds. I think beating the accessory pieces is going to be very important in Regulation G, and that's the only thing that's going to save us.
Now, my other thought on Miraidon, Jake, was that we know when GS Cup rolls around, Venusaur rears its ugly head and starts to click Sleep Powder on everything, because the sun is right there. So you don't need Groudon. You can have Groudon Venusaur, obviously. You can pull a new Garte and bring out Groudon Venusaur and click Sleep Powder all over the place. Or you can use Koraidon to set the sun. Do you anticipate Sleep Powder or any of these other, sun-abusing Pokemon to have a moment in this scene, or do you have to kind of wait till the second restricted comes back to kind of even the playing field?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about that yet. Like, Venusaur was really big back in like Sword and Shield.
Yeah.
And I think that was half because like Groudon was really good, and you could even Torkoal, that's when Torkoal also was very popular, and you could get Sun up pretty easily, but also because Gmax Vinelash is like really good. And that is no longer an option, obviously. So I feel like Venusaur specifically loses a lot of stock because it can't, do half of your team's health and residual damage over the course of 4 turns anymore. I think sleep powder probably has a place. Like, there's never going to not be a meta where sleep isn't really good. But Venusaur itself, I don't particularly see doing super well. Maybe like Lilligant or something, because After You is really strong still, but I
It's
don't know.
competing with the chlorophyll user.
Yeah.
That I think is actually pretty good. I think Hisuian Lilligant, I'm never going to be able to say that right first try, it's actually pretty strong. It's kind of underlooked right now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you have access to like a really, really good Sunsetter. Not being limited to using Torkoal is such a liberating thing.
Now let's talk. We talked about sun, talked about the water. Obviously, Justin's a little sad. His reindeer composition might not. One, Xerneas doesn't even exist, and two, Kyogre's kind of down in the dumps in your tier list here. So, what are your thoughts on Kyogre as the one restricted? Does it suffer the same issues as Groudon because of the speed, or other Pokemon that manually change the weathers, or is there a place for Kyogre in Regulation G?
Kyogre, man, Kyogre is like, and it may not mean nothing to y'all. Understand now what's going for me.
Oh my god.
There's that angelic voice.
He is the GOAT has always been there. He's one of the greatest Pokemon ever made, okay? Do not sleep on my boy. Literally do not sleep on him. Terragrass cannot put him to sleep. He is, I think he's got a place. Like, it's the only rain Pokemon, right? Like, I mean, Pelipper, good one.
Who?
And that's actually funny because Pelipper does actually have a pretty solid place in the meta. But Kyogre, obviously, my day one, goated, so goated. Water spout, consistent. The fact that you can always go for a water spout, you can build your game plans around like, I'm going to get this unhindered water spout off. You don't have to rely on a Precipice Blade / Origin Pulse accuracy. There's a few things that have been done to like kind of punish Kyogre. I would say one is like they got rid of Scald, which I actually think is like a very, very annoying, stupid nerf. Like, why did they do that? They didn't do anything to prevent all of the other broken things about Kyogre, but
chilling water doesn't do it for you.
Chilling water has never done it for me. I just think that so Weather Ball is probably a little bit more of a useful option. I don't even know if it gets Weather Ball. I haven't checked.
Let's find out.
Dude, I would love to see the god of the sea, this super big, massive, legendary Pokemon clicking Weather Ball out of like desperation instead of Origin Pulse or
it'd be stronger than Scald. I mean, if you win the Weather War, does it get it? I think it'd be funny if it didn't get it. That's so stupid.
It does not.
The god of the seas doesn't get Weather Ball. Are you kidding me?
One of the first weather setters in the game.
Come on.
No, but
Cast form gets it.
Tornadus gets Weather Ball,
Yeah.
You just run mixed Kyogre with Liquidation. That's the solution.
Well, okay, so what do we think about like Kyogre versus, as you said, Pelipper as a Drizzle user, or even manual Rain Dance setup like with Tornadus? Like, is it kind of Kyogre or nobody, or is there other ways to use rain effectively here?
I think it's like not a fair comparison to like look at Kyogre versus Pelipper like as a rain setter in that kind of role, because Kyogre sets the rain and makes use of it. Pelipper sets the rain to like cancel out sun. Like that's what Pelipper is there for, and doesn't really care about using it itself. Like, of course you get Hurricane and Weather Ball and whatever else, but Pelipper's there to like annoy you and click Wide Guard, and that's kind of its point. So like, yes, they both have Drizzle. Kyogre is obviously a much more offensive version of the two, and I'm with you, Justin. I think it has a place. It is certainly less like prominent of a place than it was 3 years ago in like Sword and Shield, but like Water Spout is Water Spout, and that's never going to be bad. Like if you're in a position where you're freely clicking Water Spouts, you're probably winning the game.
I would say that like so there's a couple of like fundamental things that they do differently. Obviously, Pelipper is more useful for its utility and Wide Guard, access to Tailwind. And I think uniquely, Pelipper, just like people don't give Pelipper enough credit for being one of the most annoying Focus Sash holders. Because like you very rarely will have like two things that can comfortably like attack into Pelipper next to like a Scarf Urshifu that you're like, happy to use. Like if your Flutter main is fast, right? It's not going to be fast in a Scarf or Urshifu. It's just going to get picked off. And usually the ways that you protect your fast stuff is with like a Mungus, right? So that's kind of like the ideology there is Pelipper is going to be able to hang on to its Focus Sash. So like it keeps the weather around for longer than you realize. And it's actually, especially with Weather Ball now, it has like very consistent like single target damage. I was going to make the joke that like pretty much Pelipper now has more consistent single target damage than Kyogre does. Because it's getting more value out of water flying coverage than most things. And it very uniquely like really pins down a Mungus and benefits like Urshifu without the cost of expending a restricted. So I think that uniquely Pelipper really benefits from being so good at holding Focus Sash and being like just like a very viable user of like Drizzle and something to combat weather, and gets Wide Guard, which is uniquely good in this specific restricted format. And Kyogre, in a different vein, I think is like very valuable in that like it's the opposite. It does not rely on a Focus Sash. It can be bulky. You can build it very, very tanky. It does ridiculous spread damage and like always needs to be respected and always needs to be thought about as like a late game option. Like you can't lose 2 Pokemon if you're going to lose the Weather War and go down to a Kyogre and Tailwind. Kyogre also really benefits from some new partners. I think like for Ridgeraff, not being forced to use like Serena. Serena was cool back in the day. Like most people remember when Santi won the Players Cup Invitational with like that obscene Scarf Ogre, like crazy offense. Like that was my kind of team, man. That was like the first thing I was trying to build in this format. But like now it's like, oh, all right, for Ridgeraff actually probably does this a lot better. And it's a lot more flexible of a Pokemon, has better stats, better moves, etc. Just much better Pokemon overall. Also looks way cooler. Small note.
And that is a factor, as you established earlier.
Very important to me. Very important.
Yes.
So yeah, again, like I think that Scarf Ogre has a place. I think that like bulky Calm Mind Ogre, not as useful, but like the Mystic Water types that we just saw, I think again also just lost in finals to Wolf in that Winter Trip tour. There's a lot to do. Also gets the powerful addition of our Chaladon, which I forgot to mention.
Ooh,
is
that sounds
uniquely
right
suited to playing very ramp style. Like it just gives you like a little bit of oomph, like a whole extra mode with the Kyogre, and being enabled by that I think is pretty awesome too.
Okay. Now, gentlemen, this conversation has gone on far too long without us recognizing the elephant in the room. And by elephant, I mean the death horse in the room in Calyrex Shadow Rider. Because that is the bane of everybody's existence right now. 150 speed, spread attacks that boost your special attack with every KO that you get. We only have one restricted, and frankly, you kind of have to convince people why they shouldn't use Calyrex Shadow Rider more than why they should use it. So, we'll start this discussion here. Jake, is everybody doom and gloom for a valid reason, or are they overreacting?
It's like undeniably incredibly good. I don't know that I would say it's like if you're not using it, you're throwing good, but there's very few things that can actually compare to 150 speed, 165 special attack, base, 120, I think is Astral Barrage, spread move with like no downside, no accuracy check, no anything. Like it's stupid good, and it's very easy to like pick up and play in the sense that you don't necessarily need like a specific setup for it. It like sets itself up by being 150 speed. Like,
guys,
you have that, then like an ND.
Oh my god. This is the first time I've ever looked at this thing's base stats, and I played 2022. Holy cow!
Yeah, it's about like 700.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
165 special attack.
Yeah, I think it's like 680 base stat total.
BSC,
yeah.
That's stupid.
That's stupid high.
It's got Circuitry special attack, and it's got a spread move.
Yeah, I mean, like for reference, Arceus is 720. You're like 40 off of Arceus base stat total, which is crazy.
I think what frustrates me with Calyrex, and this is a problem that we have in Pokemon a lot, is especially when you only have access to one Pokemon, right? You only have one restricted right now, is a lot of times, like, we get really bad, I won't say bad, we get really hyper focus formats, for lack of a better word, on certain Pokemon when they can KO themselves. And Calyrex is one of those Pokemon that does it. Mega Kangaskhan did it back in the day. But
Mega Gengar was a big one.
Mega Gengar, Hidden Power as Landorus into Choice Scarf Landorus back in the day. Earth Power Heatran into Heatran, right? Like these are problematic for me when we see like the best way to beat the best Zacian into Zacian, right? The best way to beat the best Pokemon in the format is to use the best Pokemon in the format, and that's what concerns me. So, like, Justin, do you think that's a valid opinion that like you should use Shadow Rider not because it's good, but because everyone else is using Shadow Rider, so you have to beat Shadow Rider?
No, like I don't know how to explain it. I used Shadow Rider a little bit in 2022, which is hilarious that I never looked at his base stats until now, but didn't have the best season in 2022. Maybe that's part of why. So I would say that like you don't want to go with the flow, right? You don't want to just go with the flow. And sure, it's nice to be able to hit Shadow Rider, but you have like you pay a heavy cost in using it where it's like everybody's gunning for you. Everybody on their team has to have like a lot of respect for Shadow Rider. It's boring too in a lot of ways, like unless you're doing something really unique with it. I've seen like maybe 4 Calyrex sets, and even though they're like all different in a way, like some are Terra Normal Life Orb, some are Spell Tag, some are Focus Sash, some are Nasty Plot, some have like a tech move, some are running Taunt, some Will-O-Wisp. It still just feels like they're all like barely going out of that zone of like the button you want to be clicking the most is Astral Barrage, and your entire team should be dedicated to clicking that button over and over. And while normally I'm like a big fan of like having a very fast, win quickly, very aggressive style of play, I feel like there's too much resistance to that. And I feel like it'll be easier over time to capitalize on the metagame that revolves around Calyrex than it will be to just brute force it with the horse it.
I'm proud of you on that one. Jake, not so much.
It was great.
You're like reluctantly acknowledging that it was good. Like, so okay, you brought up Terra Normal, you brought up other ways of countering it, right? Like things like off the top of my head, like Frigoraph, right? As a psychic and normal type, you're immune to ghosts and you resist the psychic. So I guess like Blood Moon or Saluna, you'd be immune to it, but then you can hit it back because of Mind's Eye or whatever the ability is. So like what are some Calyrex Shadow Rider counter picks that people can, try to work on right now, try to build their teams around in preparation for Indy?
Terapagos.
Oh, is it time, Jake? I was waiting for a Terapagos segment.
Let's talk about the turtle.
Time?
Yay!
All right, I'm handing the floor over to Jake, the leader of the Terapagos army, and you can first of all tell me what it does because I'm still kind of confused with the 3 different things and all this. So the floor is yours, Jake.
Okay. So the little baby form, little small baby turtle. That form doesn't matter. As soon as it hits the field, it turns into I think it's Terraform. Yeah, Terraform, which is the bigger turtle. Still a turtle, but it's got like the shell. And it's like all pretty.
Heroes of a half shell, I've been told.
Sure. And in that form, its ability is basically multi-scale, except like better in every way. So anytime you're at full HP and you take an attack, that attack is not very effective. Like it doesn't have the damage like multi-scale does. Even if it's like close combat, which is super effective, it becomes not very effective. So in that way, it's like 25% of damage, which is very good. And that's like it works the same as multi-scale. So if you take damage and then you go back up to full, it reactivates. And so that's why people are running like comfy with it. You could like full healing your way back up to full health and then reactivate Terra Shell, which is really good.
Wait a minute. It is literally better than multi-scale because like for what you just said, like if you were a Terra Normal Dragonite with multi-scale, you would take only half of the damage that it was going to do. But with Terapagos' ability, you would take basically 25%, right?
Yep.
Because it's taking away the super effectiveness. Okay.
Yeah.
That is stupid.
Yeah,
what?
It sets the effectiveness to not very effective. It's not just like cutting damage. And then when it terastallizes, its ability is like Terraform 0, I believe is what it's called. And it cancels all weather and terrain. Like it's not every time it hits the field. So if you terrestrialize, you switch out and come back in, it doesn't reactivate. It's only when it terrestrializes in the moment. But like if there's a train up, it's gone. If there's a weather up, it's gone. Which is really good way to like control the flow of the game. And at the same time, when you terrestrialize, you gain 100 base stats. It's essentially a mega evolution. You gain 100 base stats. And the thing is, a lot of those are in HP, which is unique. I think there's like very few things that actually gain HP mid-battle, like Zygarde Complete is one of them. But Terrapagos goes from 95 to 160 base HP, and you like gain all of that as you terrestrialize. And you also get, I think, 25 special attack too.
That creates some wonky scenarios.
Yeah.
Gaining HP in a competitive Pokemon battle, when has that ever gone awry? When has that ever made it more difficult to knock out? When you do 180% damage to a 4-time super effective Rhyperior and it still lives because it's Dynamax.
Do you hear the Sword and Shield music?
200%.
Do you hear it in the background?
Like, that's what I love about Megas, honestly. And we'll get back to Terrapagos and everything, is that they understood the one stat you cannot mess with is HP. You give 100 BST into every other stat, but HP is so important. That's why Dynamax with the double was just insanity. But anyway, so the fact that Terrapagos goes to now, does the Terrapagos Stellar form or Terraform Zero just saying like, if you're running 4 different attacks, do they get the 20% boost like a regular Stellar Terra too, or
I believe
is it only normal attacks?
So normal gets, well, let me get to that because the last really cool thing about Terrapagos is attacks Terra Starstorm. It's before you terrestrialize, just a normal type move, 120 base power, single target, and no other effects. When you terrestrialize, it becomes a spread move and it becomes stellar type. So it's entirely unresisted, like it's neutral.
And it's Terra Pokemon, right?
Yeah. So if the only effectiveness check for Terra Starstorm is if you have not terrestrialized, it's neutral. If you have terrestrialized, it's super effective. So like having a 120 power unresisted spread move is kind of crazy. Like it's not
kind of crazy.
Yeah,
it's true. But I would like to raise you one thing, and that is that Calyrex Shadow only has dark and normal types to resist it.
Yeah.
A little bit sparse. Another thing too, like, and really quickly, I'm pretty sure you do not get a stab boost when you are Terra Stellar. You do not benefit from like a stab and the Terra Stellar boost. Like you only get the boost from the Terra Stellar.
That I think is correct. I
don't
actually
the first
know the
time you click a move like the other Stellar.
So like if you were Terra Ghost Calyrex, right?
Yeah.
Other than the fact that it has a way better special attack stat, just on raw base power, it's doing way more than Terra Starstorm is.
I think you're correct.
Oh, okay.
Because it's just a much better modifier. You don't get that
normal
type modifier.
How have you found the 85 speed, Jake? Because obviously you get the trade-off of 160 HP, 110 in both of its defenses, right? So it's like super bulky, and then it has the busted multi-scale before it terrestrializes and stuff. But 85 speed, that's kind of a middle tier. You know, it's not too fast, not too slow. So like, how have you been using that speed up?
I honestly largely have just been ignoring it. I think something like Terrapagos, in the perfect scenario, doesn't really care if it's attacking first or last. There's so many times where, like, at least for me, I've been playing the Calm Mind one. I think that's my favorite set. And most of the time, like, it just doesn't matter if you attack first or last. There are some scenarios, obviously, where it does, but you're bulky enough and you have, like, Will-O-Wisp and Cineroar and, like, Rillaboom and, like, so many other ways to, like, protect it from taking 1 million damage from anything at once that if you have to attack after a Groudon or like a Shadow Rider or something, it doesn't often matter.
Okay.
I think if you're running a different set, I've seen some like Choice Specs ones going around. Like that one certainly cares a lot more about going first. But if you're like the bulky Calm Mind 3 times and then Terra and then win the game set, speed is not really a concern.
It's a good win condition and it like kind of plays itself and like what you're supposed to do with it. There's not really like many flexible things that you have to, like, other than maybe like your spreads and like what goals you're trying to accomplish. Terrapagos is not going to be that creative by itself.
No.
But also I would like to point out too, it's not min-maxed very well. A lot of it's like, so it's like at 700 raw base stat, when it's terrestrialized, but a lot of that is sitting in its attack stat.
Yeah, 105.
That's probably why you need the calm minds, right?
Yeah, it feels a little bit wasteful. It is very bulky though, and I think again it's really important that it matches up well into Calyrex and the neutral spread damage. Like, it's awesome. Like, that's just, I think it's a very cool Pokemon. I would say it's probably top 5 in the restricteds.
Yeah, okay. I'm not here to say it's like the undisputed best, but I would agree. I would definitely put it in like top 5 and be comfortable with leaving it there.
I'm definitely more interested in the format now that I've finally figured out, because the 3 images was like confusing to me and everything. So now I'm definitely more interested in Terapagos. But we got some other restricted Pokemon here. We can talk about. We can slow things down. We talked about Calyrex Shadow Rider, but let's talk about Calyrex Ice Rider, which is more of my cup of tea. I really like Trick Room teams. I like kind of going slow. Ice Rider is the slowest restricted Pokemon if we're not going to count Cosmog, which I am not counting it. So at that 50 base speed, this would be your Trick Room abuser of choice if you wanted to have your restricted Pokemon under Trick Room. Unfortunately, though, it's not slow enough, right? Because Amoonguss is slower. Excuse me. There's a lot of other Pokemon in that 50 speed tier. So, like, where do you guys stand on Calyrex Ice Rider in this format?
I'm gonna get flack for this. I don't think it's that good. It's probably top 5, but also, like, I don't know. If you're running Trick Room and you're trying to run like a powerful Trick Room sweeper, there's something that I always hate about like running really hard Trick Room types. You have to win in 3 turns, in my opinion. You can't win in 4, or you have to be like such a well-rounded composition that you can get up 2 Trick Rooms. Because you always can lose to that double protect when you're like running out of HP on that last turn. Like, they double protect and then they double protect again, and they get it on both Pokemon and you just lose. So it's like you always have kind of like that 9% chance to lose to anybody. And in some cases they just have to hit one of the double protects to win. So like it's actually like more than a 30% chance in that case. I think. Don't quote me. I'm not a maths guy. I'm actually very stupid. So
Jake is my math guy.
Calyrex, again, Ice type is like offensively phenomenal. Like, that's pretty much all you do, right? Is you want to get Trick Room up and you want to click Glacial Lance and just slash people with the Ice Swords. I think it matches up really well into a lot of the restricteds. Like, it's good into Koraidon, it's good into Miraidon. If you get the Trick Room up, you're pretty much cruising. Not many people are going to have tools on those teams to endure like your Trick Room mode. Other than like Incineroar. Also, it benefits a lot from gaining like access to some of the new items and terrestrialization. Like, it doesn't have the weaknesses that it should have, because you can just Terra Water, soak up all this damage. That really helps it against what was one of its number 1 public enemies, which was Kyogre in the past. And Clear Amulet.
Oh, the Clear Amulet,
is huge. Like,
I was gonna say that too. Yeah,
that is a big deal,
right?
Yes, I think there's a lot of Pokemon this generation that benefit in the restricted format specifically from the existence of Clear Amulet. We might not even be discussing Koraidon if Clear Amulet didn't exist. And
same with Groudon.
I don't even think
really good.
Yeah, same with Groudon. If Groudon was good, it would be a good item on Groudon. But Calyrex specifically, Ice Rider, super loves Clear Amulet. It was like made for that Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm a little higher on it than you are, Justin. I think it's still really good, and like, I don't know, we kind of talking about like min-maxing stats. It's another like 680 base stat mon, but its 2 lowest are special attack and speed, which are like the 2 you want to be lowest. So it's like its bulk is 100, 150, 130 HP defense, special defense, and even like everything else removed, like that's a stat line I would expect on like a Cresselia type Pokemon that like sits around and is annoying and has great utility but doesn't do much damage. Then you also have 165 attack and a 120 spread move. So I
pre Jenny Craig Cresselia.
Yeah.
Stop. Yeah.
Oh my god. Back when
You need to clarify.
three world championships
Yeah.
in 5 years.
My girl was a big deal.
Yeah. So she was like Taylor Swift out here. Crest was like album after album, just non-stop dropping chart toppers. But Jake, you're speaking my language here with Calyrex Ice Rider, because one of my favorite cores, and I bring it up all the time, from the 2022 GS Cup was the Palkia, like Palchua, but Palkia, Calyrex, Trick Room team. Obviously, you can't run both of them at the same time, but I'm sure there's other Trick Room centers we can use right now, like Indeedee maybe, or Farigiraf to, try to stop priority attacks, and especially if you go Terra Water, you want Farigiraf out there to stop the Grassy Gods from
they help Calyrex. In all reality, I shouldn't say that Calyrex is bad. It's just like, I always need a Pokemon to hate on. I need like some archetype to just be like, you are lesser for choosing to do this, right?
That's fair.
Just irrationally, delusionally need to do that.
As a Terrapagos main, I feel that way about Shadow Rider. I'm just like, why did you ever use this? It's so bad at Terrapagos.
That's fair. I mean, fight the power, man.
Fight the Calyrex power. So basically, I was saying you can't use Calyrex and Palkia on the same time right now. Also, but you can use Palkia or Dialga in these origin forms.
Yeah, you shouldn't, but you could.
Finish your first point, Jake, but then we'll
not include me in this. I don't want to validate. We're not talking about those Pokemon. They're lesser. We don't need to worry about them.
Really?
They're so much worse.
No, that breaks my heart. They look.
Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, Jake.
They look so silly. Go ahead, Jake.
I was gonna finish off Ice Rider by saying it also really misses Tapu Fini. I miss Tapu Fini. I think she should come back. None of the other two. I don't care about the rest. Just give me Tapu Fini. But that was like a perfect partner for Ice Rider too, because like Heal Pulse with all those stats is stupid, and also not being able to get burned is very good. That was my last thing. I miss Tapu Fini. I just like to inject that wherever I can.
That is fair. I miss all the Tapus as well, but specifically Fini. But Dialga Origin Form and Palkia Origin Form. This is our first chance getting to play them competitively, right? Legends Arceus didn't have any PvP. We've seen them in the TCG for freaking 2+ years now at this point. But I thought maybe there was a chance. Maybe when we get 2 restricted slots, you can try to make it work. But they do have stat changes compared to the original form. Obviously, just like what's his face, Giratina Origin form compared to the regular, right? So on Palkia's end, you go up to 120 speed with 150 special attack. Like, am I truly off base here? Like, I feel like there's something that could work there.
Yeah, no, like, here's the thing. First of all, if I'm playing against anybody running Dialga or Palkia, I'm calling a judge and I'm saying, hack check. I need to know that this guy got this legitimately before I waste my time.
The 0 attack, 0 speed Dialga origin.
First thing, frame 1. I am like, judge, hack check. Did this person? I want to see evidence that this guy played Legends Arceus. Okay, I need to see it
on speed dial.
That first person I am calling. And second thing is, I just don't. Again, this is a very power struggle heavy format. Like, you are starting from behind for using these guys, and until I see like a composition where somebody solves it and they're like, "Yo, this is actually pretty good," I just think you shouldn't be investing time into those guys. If there's any lesser restricteds that you should be focusing on, and honestly, in our case, if we only have limited time to discuss some of them, I'd rather focus on more of the Pokemon that like we might actually see. I think Rayquaza is a good one. Rayquaza is basically just Dragonite, but upgraded, has a more valuable ability. Also, really benefits from the existence of Clear Amulet, and has extreme speed and Terra Normal and Qianpao with flying typing, like single target stab. It still gets Dragon Ascent. Like, Dragon Ascent.
It's Dragonite except with a flying move.
You don't have to Terra to smash stuff.
That's awesome.
Good typing too. I think that like Dragon is probably in the best spot it's ever been since before the release of Sylveon and the big sister.
That's the other wrinkle we haven't really talked about, right? With the other Scarlet and Violet legendaries, like Qianpao with all these physical restricteds, or Chiyu with these special restricted. Like, I know, Chiyu and Choice Scarf Chiyu and Calyrex Shadow Rider is kind of a nightmare to face into, but obviously the other Pokemon you pair with the restrictions are going to be important. But we do have some time here to talk about some of the other ones. Like, we're not going to waste your time on, like, I don't know, Lugia or Hoa. Like I know John Hu can make them work. Some others can make them work. We're not going to talk about the Kirams and stuff, but how about the last generation's superstar in Zacian? You got a huge nerf. Zamazenta, I've heard, is also kind of a pretty solid supportive Pokemon when we get 2 GS slots. We get 2 restricteds because I think it has coaching and some other supportive things that it can do, and it gained access to Iron Defense Body Press. So what do we think of the now nerfed Zacian and Zamazenta?
Zacian's just trash. Like,
really?
It's just not worth it anymore. Behemoth Blade, or what is it? The ability. Oh God,
Intrepid Sword.
Intrepid Sword.
Thank you. Yes, it only activates once a battle now. If you weren't aware, those listening at home. So like if you start the game with it, you lead it, you get your +1 attack, and then you switch it out, you just don't get the boost when you come back in, which is the whole reason it was so good. Like if you got intimidated, you could swap out and come back in and oops, I'm at +1 again. And I think it also benefited so much from preying on Dynamax, and that's just gone now. And now its best move is just the Behemoth Blade, which has no extra effect. It's just like 100 base power, which is funny to talk about 100 being low. Like, oh, it's only 100 base power.
Well, yeah, Astro Mirage. And,
yeah, there's like so many things with 120 moves now that it's like,
and it's single target. Like, ugh.
yeah. And you can't use an item. That's also like really bad.
Right.
Yeah. No, don't even get me started on Zacian. Like, it's so funny like playing in a format like 2022 where you're like, oh my God, Zacian is like Pokemon Jesus, and then like they do one thing to it. They just barely little slap on the wrist. They're like, all right, you only get 1 Intrepid Sword boost, and it's like, okay, get out of here. This dog is not part of my house anymore. Okay. You're calling the SPCA on that one. And anyway,
what about Zamazenta though?
But that was what was leading me to the next point, is that Zamazenta, keep in mind, Dauntless Shield does not get intimidated. So it's keeping its defense boost unless you're playing against something that drops your defense. A tickle user. You're keeping your defense boost. You have stab, body press, iron defense. I obviously think it's going to have a place because it's just like an archetype that, with all of the physical damage, like it's more valuable than it's ever been. And I think it's just pretty consistent. Like fighting coverage is actually pretty lacking right now. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of normal types and terra normals and stuff to fight against Calyrex. So I think that like that next stage, when I talked about countering the counters to the meta that we fight against Calyrex with, Zamazenta fits pretty nicely into that. And I didn't really know how to pronounce its name before Sunday, but
there you go.
Now that dog has entered the chat. Like, what's
so,
up?
You know what kills me? Like, because we have it with the TCG casters and some of the Unite casters, like they still say Zacian like 3, all these years later, but like the evidence is out there. The resources are available for your usage. Like, it is Zacian. It doesn't sound as cool as Zacian. I'll give it to you. But it is what it is. Whenever I hear them say, "Oh, Zacian," V or whatever, I'm like, ugh. That's just a little rant. But anyway, I don't know how many other legendaries we really need to cover. I think the last one that's probably worth is the kind of Sun and Moon core, and specifically Lunala. I've seen a lot of conversations online about Lunala because it's it's Pokemon that has Trick Room. It has Wide Guard as well. Wide Guard is not for lack of a better word, very widely distributed move, but it's obviously very important to stop the Astral Barrages. But like the question, like Jake, are you willing to use your 1 restricted slot on a supportive, Trick Room, Wide Guard, Lunala set, or should we wait until we get the GS Cup and get the 2 restricteds?
I think Lunala has very similar problems to Zamazenta in that it probably patches a lot of holes in teams, or like it gives you some stronger matchups into some things, but I don't know if it's ever going to be worth running when you only get 1 of them. Like Wide Guard is really good, and that is also like a reason people might want to run Zamazenta because it has Wide Guard too. But I think they both just suffer from being like good but not great, and you really need that slot to be great when there's such a high ceiling for those Pokemon. Like Lunala, it's fine. Like it had really good usage back in 2019. Like it won Worlds in Ultra Series, so it's like a good Pokemon. But you have to compare it to like Shadow Rider. They're both like Ghost Psychic. They both have strong Ghost type moves, but Lunala, it bypasses Wide Guard, which is like good and cool, especially because Wide Guard is probably going to be important and also has Wide Guard itself. But if you're in any other situation when Wide Guard's not a factor, it's like strictly worse than Shadow Rider, in my opinion. So you got to have a really, really good reason to use it, I think. And I don't know that there are those good reasons just yet.
I would say that it stands as like a singular Pokemon that gets like multi-scale and is like a ghost type that can set Trick Room. I think it also really benefits from Terra and the existence of Covert Cloak, because it makes it more easy to like Terra freely. I know a lot of people are going to be like really obsessed with using Power Herb, but like Lunala gets Moonblast, so like you can go like Terra Fairy. Pretty sure it gets like Calm Mind too. Like
it does.
Yeah.
There's, I think that Lunala is underexplored. It's definitely not the same power level by itself as something like a Calyrex, but I think it's very easy to use it more as an anti-meta Pokemon than we're giving it credit for. I personally wouldn't use it. I don't think it's that good, but I can totally see, like, you know, people, I feel like good players always end up using Lunala, and I'm like, okay, whatever. If you want to do that, go ahead.
It's just like, it just kind of shows up, and maybe we are going to have to wait for that second restricted for it to patch up the holes like Jake is saying, but like, you know, it seems like one of those Pokemon that just, you're like, man, when you're not prepared for Lunala, you really get punished for it. But
I think like it's Lunala to me, and I think Zamazenta will be the same way, is a great second restricted.
Yes.
Like I think when you have two of them, you don't need them both to be like dealing 100,000 damage every turn. Like you can have scenarios where it's much easier to use kind of a slower paced thing in that slot that isn't going to be like a huge damage output immediately kind of Pokemon. But it feels like you just give up way too much if you want to use Lunala in this current, like in Regulation G, because you're using Lunala and nothing else. And that feels like such a downgrade to me.
And then do we have any thoughts on the rest of the Sun and Moon series? You have Solgaleo, obviously Full Metal Body is still a really strong ability, but its speed, that 97 speed ain't doing what it used to in this game. And then Duskmane Necrozma and Dawnwing Necrozma. We tested these out, or are these are a GS Cup format Pokemon?
Those are skips.
Those are Pokemon that really, really suffer from not having a second restricted. And I think that's really all there is to it. Solgaleo, there might be some sauce there. I just don't want to like steer people in that direction and waste their time and then get a DM about like, oh my god, Carris, why would you even like mention this? Why'd you get my hopes up? Again, we have like 6 really, really solid restricteds and a bunch of other B tier restricteds that are like right there neck and neck that you can do really interesting things with. I would really exhaust those options before getting into the weeds. I mean, Ho-Oh is a Pokemon that like is one of my favorite Pokemon. I think it's one of the coolest looking Pokemon. I literally have a Ho-Oh tattoo. I know better.
You have a Ho-Oh tattoo?
I do. It's on my chest. We haven't really, you know,
Send
had
me a DM
a hot tub night for you to see it. But maybe. I don't like Ho-Oh probably has the stats and like good typing into a lot of the matchups, but like it's not really doing anything interesting other than like maybe sticking around for a couple extra turns. So again, I challenge people to come up with really cool ideas with these things, but again, I just feel like you're going to be a step behind in the race. In like Formula One, you know, you don't want to start from pole 7. You want to start from the front.
Right.
I could totally butchered that reference, by the way. I've only watched a couple of the
I don't know. I just
Formula One documentary episodes. Is Dawes in the chat? Is he going to be ripping me?
No, but you know, you could have said any reference. I was thinking about the Ho-Oh tattoo, and I was like, should I get a matching Lugia tattoo?
Oh my god,
chest Lugia tattoo.
I'll hold your hand.
And then we go to the hot tub. Don't tell anybody. And then we're like, what's up, boys? But that's a sketch for another day. All right, let's put this together. Let's wrap up our deep dive into Regulation G and make a OHKO certified top 5 restricted Pokemon list, because Justin's saying you think there's maybe 6 in that top area. So let's get into this fight. Let's fight each other with passion in this discussion on what you think is the best, the second best. Is everybody in agreement that Calyrex Shadow Rider is the number 1 restricted, or are we gonna have a fight?
Easily, don't even have to waste any time.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so that's 1. So what's the second side? Is it Terapagos? Is it Koraidon? Maybe this is where it starts to get a little more interesting.
I would actually say it's either Koraidon or Ice Rider.
Yeah,
Ice Rider. Really?
Yeah, again, I was hating on it, but as I said, it's pointless hate, irrational, delusional hate. I know better. It's a strong Pokemon.
To me, I think it's probably Ice Rider. In my head, the top 3 are both Calyrex and Terapagos. And I'm like, okay, debating that or whatever. But
you can move them around. I think Koraidon is right there too. And
I think that's
right, so let's have that fight. Terapagos versus Koraidon in 3. Let's have this discussion here. Because I would say Terapagos because you're using it to beat the number 1 Pokemon, right?
I would say Koraidon because I feel like it activates a lot of other things that are really strong, and also is like really good typing, really good stats, etc. Really benefits from Clear Amulet, and also is not restricted in Terra. Like you have to terrestrialize Terapagos, and you have to build your game plans around it. It's just a lot more flexible. We haven't seen like half of what it can do yet.
In a vacuum, I might argue Terapagos is better. But I think in context of like setting up your team much better and like not hogging Terra as much as Terapagos does, I think giving Koraidon the 3 spot is probably fair.
All right, so we have 3 Koraidon and 4 on Terapagos. That leaves one last slot for restricted to get that 5th best restricted Pokemon. So you guys got to think carefully. Is it, as you mentioned, Rayquaza is just better Dragonite?
I understand that it's fun for me. My boy Kyogre. It's Kyogre. It's gotta be Kyogre.
I was gonna say Kyogre.
It's Kyogre.
What?
I think Kyogre is really good.
I was talking down on it, but like it's my goat, man. You're never not gonna have a Kyogre.
I think
revolution.
I think 4 is where like S tier ends for me.
Okay.
Yes.
But then Kyogre's like a solid A. I think it's probably the best of the A's.
Does Miraidon beating Kyogre change that to put it 5?
I terrestrialize. GG.
I don't know that like beating each other 1v1 is relevant to a tier list because there's so many factors. You have a whole team. I don't know.
Right.
With the exception of Terapagos, I would say, like because Terapagos matches up so well into the best.
True. Yeah.
It boosts its power level a lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I think Kyogre is still like really scary. I think it. Yeah.
Miraidon also really like struggles again with the existence of Rillaboom because like Rillaboom is going to be everywhere. And again, I think that like Shadow Rider just being in that speed tier, like above like the faster frail things, right? Like Miraidon, I just don't think Miraidon's that strong. I'd love to be proven wrong. I think it's cool that it activates tons of Pokemon, but it's just like too easy to turn off. Like you don't realize like booster energy is reliable because you can't turn it off. Whereas, you know, if you swap in Rillaboom, you lose your Quark Drive. That's like a big deal. Same thing with the photosynthesis stuff. And honestly, that's partially why I think Kyogre deserves the 5 slot, is half because Koraidon is so strong. Delusional people are going to be trying to run Groudon. I'm going to be proven so wrong about Groudon too, by the way. Like, I know some Italian and Spanish players are just going to be like, you know, they're typing the ha-ha-has in the chat. They're like, you silly American. And they're going to use like Groudon, Bronzong and stuff and wreck me. But yeah, I think that like the merit of Kyogre being like the only like rain restricted, it matches. It's like the water spouter, has the ability to go Scarf. People are just going to get creative with Ogre. It's always going to have that place in the meta, and it punishes like a lot of Pokemon in the meta. Like if you like our Terra Water Scarf, like you just Terra Water Spout and you KO Calyrex, like goodbye. If you don't have like a counter weather to it, I think that's actually a pretty big deal.
Okay. All right, so that's the OHKO certified top 5 restricted list is Calyrex Shadow Rider, Calyrex Ice Rider, Koraidon, Terapagos, right? We decided that?
Yeah.
I forget.
Yeah.
And then to Kyogre. I can hear the comments already. A lot of Reshiram Zekrom disrespect from this group here, from this conversation.
As there should be.
As there should be. But it is what it is. All right, so thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here. We have one final topic of discussion, and that is the question of the week. So I didn't tell you guys beforehand. I think this might be interesting, or we might actually all agree on it. I'm not sure it's going to go down. This is from our friend Boyadis in the Discord, who posts memes all the time. Does a great job making everybody have fun in the Discord. Make sure you join our Discord as well if you're not in there yet, because we have a lot of fun in there. The question: if Urshifu did less damage through Protect, like Max moves and Z moves, but instead broke Protect, would you think that made it would you think that would make him worse or better? So if Unseen Fist wasn't just you go past the protect and hit through it, if it was just you break protect but it does 25%, is that better or is that worse?
25%? Way worse.
I think it's quite worse.
Way
You
worse.
break protect for your other target to go into that slot.
Yeah, but I think the draw of Unseen Fist is that Urshifu just like KOs things through protect. Like
Urshifu
nothing else
maximizes
does
your setup, like Tailwind
Yeah.
turns and Trick Room.
Yes.
Like that. That's the main thing. Is like
yeah,
you are always getting that Chi and Pow if it stays in. Because if you're like Choice Scarf, Terra Water, you're always getting it. Like if you're in Tailwind, like you're always getting that damage. They have to swap to resist it. So it just like creates ridiculous pins, and like that's kind of why like in doubles, especially Urshifu is so broken.
yeah.
And the guarantee damage is really important. I would say that like in a lot of cases, even though you'd still be doing that same damage if they don't protect, just breaking it, like you'd have to target that slot and then hit it with another Pokemon. Like that makes the partner a lot stronger than it would be in a situation where it would just be helpless if you were just KOing like a Fluttermane, for example, with the Scarf Surging Strikes.
I think that like the potential highs might be higher if it was to like break protect and do less damage and then the partner cleans up. But the consistency is so much better in its current state than if it was doing quarter damage.
I think I probably agree with you too, but I think, for the devil's advocate conversation, this could be split between the two Urshifus, right? Because if only the first Surging Strikes is the resisted damage to break protect, and then the second two are the full powered crits.
I wouldn't even be close.
That's a wrinkle?
Yeah.
And it's only 25% worse.
I'm a Torkoal. I'm going to protect in front. Oh no! And then he breaks through, and then has 2 crit Surging Strikes.
Yeah, and in that case, it's doing 80% of the damage that it would have done normally, and it's breaking protect. It's broken. Still.
Yeah,
it's way more broken. But in the case where like it does,
but then it's not
50%.
as broken on the Wicked Blow version, right? Because then you're only just doing 25% and breaking protect.
Well, for a good long phase of Regulation F, people thought that the Dark Urshifu was good too, but like that doesn't mean that it actually is.
Wow, so many hot takes, Justin. I love it.
I'm very opinionated.
So then we would say yes, under the normal circumstance of just 25%, it's worse than it is now. If we do it so that the first Surging Strike breaks it and then the second two do their main damage, then that's better, worse, well, whatever. What would your suggestions be? Because we've all thought of ways of nerfing Incineroar, or not Incineroar, excuse me, that's not a Pokemon, or Shifu. What would be a way that you can think of making Unseen Fists, Wicked Blow, Surging Strikes, whatever capacity? How can you make Urshifu more balanced?
You get rid of Unseen Fist.
That's a start.
That's gunning it though, right? Like
yes,
like that's different than trying to bring it down.
I would like for it to go away forever, please.
I think you could maybe like give a little, take a little. Like you could take away Unseen Fist and then maybe like make it a little bit better on the special defensive side.
I think one way to do it would be making only the special, like the signature moves go through protect, like Surging Strikes.
That's fair.
Always
like
crits and goes through protect or something, but like
yeah.
not close combat or U-turn Aqua Jet or something.
I don't even think that that's enough, honestly.
It's like
it's a nudge.
It's
I don't really click any other move other than Surging Strikes.
If you're a normal type, right? Like having close combat fail, but Surging Strikes, go through protect. Like
Kill you anyway.
That's kind of No, you're good. You're good.
You know how much Chi and Pow and Pelipper boosting Terra Water and Surging Strikes does to Porygon too? Like with all the modifiers, it does not matter. I don't know, man. Like I don't think you can ever do anything other than get rid of Unseen Fist.
Yeah, and like its identity is so closely tied to Unseen Fist, so that's never going to happen. So
it's kind of.
I don't know that there's a way to nerf it unless they give it like the Zacian treatment where it's like the first time you attack through protect it works, and then the second protect works. Or like I don't know.
Oh, gotcha.
That seems way too
we
hard.
didn't even talk about Urshifu in this format. Is it good in
What
Regulation
happened?
G?
The Sixers were winning and they lost in the last.
No.
What happened?
I did give Justin permission to have the game on in the background. While we were,
I just checked the end. I paid attention the whole time, and I was like,
You cursed it.
"What happened?" Oh
I'm
my
sorry.
goodness!
Your question at the
We
top of the
wasted
show.
a 35-point Tyrese Maxey triple double.
Oh no.
Enough on Trash Bede and the 76ers.
Oh,
But
God.
I'm just kidding. He's the MVP. But is Urshifu good in Regulation G? Like, I've not had time to test anything.
Is
Yes.
the water wet? Is the sky
I don't
blue?
know. I'm thinking maybe Koraidon changes thing. Maybe Calyrex is it's faster. I'm
Nothing.
wondering if it's
Get out of
changing.
here. First of all, it's the best Scarfer, easily. And that's pretty much
Okay.
like what everybody's running Scarf or Sash. It's ridiculous. It's probably one of the few things that can compete in damage output. Like, everybody's starved at this point, right? To be able to like combat the restricteds with their other pieces, right? Because like if you're running Terapagos, you want to be able to proactively deal with like Koraidon, for example. You don't always want to rely on just like a redirection or trying to win the speed control war so that your restricted can run scot-free. And I think that like Urshifu is like almost undeniably the best at like fighting all of the other restricteds, like Terra Water Surging, especially with POW. Like you're gonna break through like a Calyrex. If a Koraidon Terras into Terra Water, like you're gonna break through it even in the rain. Even in the sun. And like you're picking off Tornadus. Like people have to run so much bulk, and it's just like such an uncontested, powerful, strong move with all of these available modifiers. It's ridiculous. Like it's so strong. I don't really think that will ever change unless they nerf it, unless they get rid of it. And honestly, it's like not the worst thing, especially in a restricted format, to have access to that. Because like, what else are you gonna hit Calyrex with?
There was a funny tweet the other day. Cedric Bernier like went to a local and tweeted about it. And he's like, "Oh, I had fun at a local. Incineroar, Amoonguss, Urshifu feels really busted in Reg F, but I'm looking forward to Reg G." And then Justin Burns replied, and he was like, "If you think Amoonguss, Urshifu, Incineroar being busted is a good thing, I have some good news for you for Regulation G."
Yeah, right? Yeah, even better. I mean, that's what we saw in 2022, right? When Incineroar was on like literally 91% of the top cut teams or whatever that year, but whatever. That was another time. I have had an absolute blast with you two gentlemen here this evening. I think you've done an admirable job filling in for Sierra. Not quite the Sierra level, but you're like,
completely understandable.
You're right there. So thank you very much for joining us. And where can everybody find you? What do you got? You got any events coming up? Well, where can they find you on social media? The floor is yours. We'll start with Jake.
I am on Twitter /X, Major Bowman _. I'm still waiting for the suspended @Major Bowman account to be released so I can claim it. But I'm always around. I go to as many regionals and internationals as I can, whether it's casting, playing, hanging out. So I'll always be somewhere in the Pokemon sphere.
And then Justin.
On my side, you can follow me over on Twitter at Zazel _God. I have a YouTube channel that I started recently that I try to capture a little bit of some of the VGC history, talk about a little bit more of the personal angles. That's just Azazel on YouTube. A really cool, fun project coming up in the next 2 weeks. And you can see me probably at an AIC. I think I'll be over in New Orleans. There's I think Michael DeBest is doing like a money match thing where he's going to be taking money matches in random battles. I'll be the dude behind him, haggling him, so that way I can improve your odds of beating him. That was the agreement. I'm selling that service for only 50 cents per game. So hit me up, let me know. Also, I'll be out there dancing on the dance floor after I go 0-9 drop.
No, don't say that. Well,
you go 0-9 and then you drop.
And then drop. It's like, standings are in? I think we're making
I'm starting 0-4. I'm going for it. I'm like, okay, we got to see if I can pull this off.
Bro,
at that point, you're just trying to avoid the bye for the rest of the tournament.
If I'm starting 0-1, I'm going to go with some gumbo. You know what I mean? I'm going to bet the best gumbo
straight
in New
to the
Orleans
French Quarter.
Yeah. All right, guys. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for joining us. And anyone who made it through this episode of OHKO, we appreciate you listening to the end. As always, make sure you subscribe or follow, whatever way you are listening to OHKO. Make sure that you stay up to date. Join our Discord, as I mentioned. But for now, that is going to do it. We are heading into Regulation G, so it's going to be a very exciting time as that is our Worlds format. Hopefully, Sierra will be back next week to tell us all of her first-person shooter adventures that have been going on this week. But for now, this has been OHKO, and we will see you next time.